Whataburger Friday Night Stars back from the Star in Frisco. Holtom needed 11 points up on San Angelo Central. How about this? This is going to help out a big game from the Holtom Whiteout. They later would score on that drive. The Buffaloes are up by 11 exactly at the moment. Tony Thomas touchdown for Louisville. As that's a close one between Marcus and Louisville from beautiful McKinney ISD Stadium. The lunge for the end zone and the yellow jerseys up against Williams McKinney Boyd Broncos.
We'll get it eventually.
Arlington wide receiver Charles Brown for the long
Charles
touchdown.
Brown did that last night, and he was
Near
gone.
Sideline. He has been unbelievable. Arlington, though, drops it to Lamar. And then how about this? Isaiah Smith, pick 6.
Sounds like the Trojans.
It is. The Trojans of Trinity, no chink in that armor, as they are impressively taking care of Richland. Week 11, the final week of Texas high school football. My goodness, it is really ramping up right now because not only are the playoff scenarios starting to unfold, we're seeing wild results from across the area. We'll get into plenty of those in a moment. Like I mentioned, Trinity just taking care of Richland right now in a district championship game. You've got Liberty, who we highlighted earlier and didn't really talk a whole lot about, across the hallway from us, leading against Wakeland in what could potentially be the first win for the Redhawks since 2017. Except we've heard that before, so we don't want to get too excited, but they are leading by 7 in the fourth quarter. Plenty going on around the area of Texas high school football. Heckma Harrison in the denim jacket as always, and then William Broderick joining us here in Week 11. I'm Kyle Yeomans. So glad you've joined us, and man, it's been a fun week so far in just the sense of you can kind of feel that urgency. Some teams having to win to get in, other teams needing some help and getting that help, but you can't scoreboard watch a whole lot in high school football. You got to take care of what you got to do on the field, and then you find out afterwards how the everything just kind of settles, and that's kind of where we're at right now.
Yeah, this is that season, man. It started from the beginning, week 1 all the way through week 11. I would expect nothing less going into the playoffs. A lot of teams are playing like their lives depended on it, and you can see that it's imminent from the scoreboard. And you got some teams like what we got across the hall. Just teams playing for pride in general. Don't want to go over on the year. And, hey, we got a battle going on here at the Star.
It's also weird to see some of these teams who need to fight for their playoff lives not showing up immediately.
Yeah.
And they're going to have to, especially some of these teams, the big one that comes to mind right now is Plano down to Prosper big. They have themselves a hole. It's going to be interesting to see if they can find a way to dig themselves out of it.
Yeah, and that's I don't know if they're going to be able to dig
now
out
that
42-7.
That one.
Yeah, that's a Herculean effort right there if they do that.
And Prosper just taking care of business in that regard. The other teams that you would normally expect to blow out other teams, really not really taking care of business the way that you would think. One that comes to mind, and this is not one of our highlighted games, Allen Eagles taking on Plano West. Of course,
No
Plano
way.
West
No way.
got that win last week.
No way.
Now they're not winning right now.
What?
It's 20. It's 20-10 in the third quarter, and Allen is winning.
Okay, come on, man. You're talking.
Plano West. Oh, I said they weren't. They weren't
The
there yet.
suspense is killing me.
But it's a 10-point game, and Plano West has the football in the third quarter. So if they score, it's a 1-score game between Allen,
No way.
who is seemingly unbeatable no matter what anybody does.
Yeah.
And then Plano West, who hadn't won a game in 37 tries, turning around and
So here's the
being
thing.
within 1 score.
Yeoman, let's take a wild guess on that Allen game and just say that they're not playing their starters or backups.
I'm going to take a
or
wild
anything.
guess.
Yeah, maybe we're probably down to our JV freshman guys in this game, giving them an opportunity to get some reps, right?
Yeah, probably.
You would probably
Yeah, I mean,
assume
look,
so.
I think the We Are Plano West theme was last week. Yeah.
We are Plano West.
We Are West. Yeah, We Are West. We all were.
They did pull it off.
Absolutely. And I mean, you talk about a drought for that team, and I can't say enough about that victory last week, but if they get one tonight, Boy, I'm gonna help y'all carry the goalpost back to Plano West.
Well, it's in Plano West.
Oh, my bad.
They wouldn't have to go very far. They would just have to take it and set it back.
They gonna tear their own goalpost down.
Oh, what a story that would be. I'm not expecting that to be the case, but it's still interesting to look at.
Let's go.
By the way, Denison has 4 points right now. That's the score, 28-4. Denison losing to Denton Braswell. They've had 2 safeties in that football game. You don't see that a whole lot. They've just got 4 points on the board. But we've got a barn burner between Flower Mound Marcus and Louisville.
Wow.
You've got other games like the one here at the Star, Frisco Liberty and Frisco Wakeland battling it out, duking it out. Frisco Reedy is inching their way to a potential playoff berth, and we'll talk about that here in a moment. But where we want to start things off, Colleyville, Heritage, and Denton. That's where we'll start here in an overtime segment. And, of course, we'll go till 11 o'clock today. Professor Diggs will join us here in about 30 minutes or so. But Colleyville Heritage, not necessarily flexing their muscles in terms of the offense. It's under 200 yards for both sides, but the defense for Colleyville Heritage today has just been absolutely impressive.
Yeah, that's definitely made all of the difference in this game, holding Denton Braswell to only 3 points, 38 yards rushing, 94 yards passing. And look, this is a pretty, I would say it was an ugly game a minute ago, but now the Panthers have extended their lead to 22-3. Like you said, man, not a whole bunch of yards there. 197 yards on offense for Colleyville Heritage. And literally, these guys have been doing it all pretty much in all of these, have been in the passing. Okay. Yeah. We know that about Colleyville Heritage. That's what their game is. And so A.J. Smith, 139 yards passing, 2 TDs so far. And so that's the difference in this game. Denton, they had a lot to play for. But, there's going to have to be a miracle here for them to pull this one off.
Well, this is a really unsung Colleyville Heritage team. Obviously, their 2 district losses on the season, Denton, Ryan, and Birdville. Those are understandable considering how great those 2 teams are. And all in all, when their offense clicks, they're great, but their defense has kept them in a lot of games, including that Birdville game last week. It came down to the wire in large part due to the fact that the defense was able to hold Birdville only to 28. So doing their job against Denton like they need to.
Right.
I see no reason why Colleyville doesn't walk away with this one.
Well, and all 3 of the losses have come against those playoff teams. And you forgot to mention Southlake Carroll in there as well, but that's still another loss that's expected, at least through that district. So, I think this is a Colleyville Heritage squad that might go in a little under the radar into that postseason. They've struggled in their fair share of games, no doubt about it. But whenever they've needed to take care of business, such as this one against Denton, they've definitely done so. So it's interesting to look at how that one has kind of unfolded. Now, quick update across the way. We entered the show as Liberty was leading by 10, 38-28 over Wakeland. How about this, though? Wakeland down by 4, got the ball back almost immediately and takes it into the end zone, or at least close to the end zone. I didn't see a signal from a referee. We'll await the signal. I believe he did get in, and because of that, now Liberty is only up by 3 in this ball game. So 38-35 now the score across the way as the Redhawks look for their first win since 2017.
Yeah, I have no idea what was going on with Wakeland. Maybe they just, obviously started slow, underestimated last game. Wakeland is a team that at the beginning of the season, we were saying this is definitely a team that's going to be in the thick of things. Then they played Frisco Lone Star, and everything kind of went downhill from there. But obviously, this, losing a game like this, it's not something that I don't believe anyone had in the cards for them.
No, even with this playoff scenario that's involved in that district, I didn't think Wakeland even had a shot to lose this football game.
Well, I think it's a combination of Wakeland maybe sleeping on their opponent a little bit and Liberty just coming to play. They're playing, obviously not for playoffs, not to extend their season in any way, but they're playing for pride. They know they haven't won a game since the middle of 2017, and they want to change that, and they'd love to do it here at the Star, really one of the bigger stages probably the biggest stage they're going to see all season. Why not? Why not just win this game? Why not ruffle Wakeland's feathers as they headed in the playoffs?
Yeah, do it for the seniors, man.
That's exactly the point. And you think those seniors want to win and get that taste of a W to finish out their season and their careers.
So no win since 2017 for this team?
So that means since they were sophomores.
Yep.
They have not won since they were a sophomore.
That
means a lot of these guys haven't won on varsity.
Yep.
that's pretty bad.
Man, the more you think about it, the more it just must hurt.
Yeah, I don't want to keep jabbing that at them, but that's what's at stake right now. They are winning right now.
We're all in sport of them.
7 minutes left and 5 seconds, so we'll keep watching that.
I don't think anyone would be upset if Liberty wins this game. Maybe Wakeland.
Wakeland would.
But
Wakeland
everyone else, I think, would
absolutely
cheer.
be upset. Let's move on to that game we mentioned a little bit earlier, Denton Braswell and Denison, and this one in the middle of the third quarter. Denton Braswell, of course, already locked into that playoff spot and having to take care of Denison. And Denison setting up a little bit of a playoff scenario playing out that we talked about earlier with them and Frisco Reedy. Frisco Reedy needing a win today and a Denison loss in order to move on, but it's 35-4. I didn't expect this to be as big of a blowout as it really has.
Somebody should have told you about Grayson Thompson.
Oh, he's been awesome.
Grayson Thompson came into this game and said, who want what with who? 281 yards, 3 touchdowns, killing them. Youssef has 82 yards, no touchdowns, but, man, Braswell is balling. Again, I talk about Chuck at the beginning of the year. He tapped me on my shoulder and said, hey, heck, Denton Braswell is a team you better start watching out for, and it's come to it's matured over this season, and you see it. But 35-4, and thank you, Kyle, for explaining to me how they got the 4 points. I would have never guessed. I was thinking that there's a new scoring method.
I hope you're kidding. There's only one way to
stop. Don't explain it again, okay?
I'll
that was being facetious. I'm
just making sure. I don't know how you are sometimes.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, we talked about earlier about how Denison was going to need help from Braswell in order to win this game, likely in sloppy play. And they got a turnover. They just committed 2 of their own and haven't played great defense so far. As
give it right back.
Mentioned with Thompson, yep.
Yeah, you can't necessarily do that. If you're looking to move on, you got to take advantage of those turnovers and not turn things around and hand it right back over. But that's exactly been the case. So Denison would have clinched a playoff berth if it beat Denton Braswell, or if Frisco Reedy lost to Princeton. Reedy, on the other hand, clinching a playoff berth if it beats Princeton and Denison loses to Braswell. No seeds set in this district at all throughout the night. So 7-5A definitely wide open.
So Reedy is winning their game, right? Versus Princeton.
Yes, they were taking down Princeton, I think, pretty emphatically early on in the night, and I'll check that here in just a moment. Okay. But at least at the moment, Frisco Reedy would sneak in.
And we got to say, and we have to mention, Frisco Reedy's quarterback is
Mr. Kitna.
Son of
John Kitna.
Come on, man. You got a name drop in this show. You can't just say something about Frisco Reedy and not say something about the lineage here, bro. Come on.
Kitna's had a great year, but he's still young and learning is the biggest thing.
But I'll tell you what, the kid is got an opportunity. Sophomore got an opportunity to see him. He's skinny, pretty tall, but the kid has a major arm. He's going to be another one of those guys that we're going to be talking about here in DFW here pretty soon.
And Frisco Reedy is up right now 34-14 over Princeton.
God, is that you?
Yes, it's God.
It's the voice of God. The beam mic.
Oh, no, not today.
So there it is. Reedy, once again, emphatically taking down Princeton at the moment. So right now, Reedy pretty snugly in if it continues to look like that. I mean, I don't know if Denison can surpass their
it's not going to happen.
Their lead, and I don't think Princeton's going to come back. So it looks like Reedy might find their way to the playoffs, which is wild entering the night. You didn't necessarily think that was the case.
No, I mean, and there are a lot of teams like Reedy that are waiting for things to play out. I mean, and fortunately for Reedy, they had everything riding on Denton Braswell, and that's the team you want to have it all riding on because they're obviously Grayson Thompson, man, this kid is amazing, and this is a great season that these guys have had, and I look for them to just build on what they're already doing.
Yeah. Yeah, that's exactly right. And, man, I hope that we see this Braswell squad continue throughout the playoffs. Let's move on to quite possibly one of the games of the night, and it's quickly turning into one of the games of the year. Flower Mound Marcus and Louisville, the battle for the axe and Flower Mound Marcus, and you see the crowd over with the Fighting Farmers out in Louisville. Flower Mound Marcus getting off to an unbelievable start as Garrett Nussmeier just went off in the first quarter. 338 yards, or this is not in the first quarter. This is what his stat line now.
He said first quarter. I'm like, wow. What?
He had 300 in the first half, so he was right there,
Okay.
no doubt about it. But 338 yards is what his total is now. 20 of 26 passing and 4 touchdowns for Mr. Nussmeier.
Yeah, this is a game that Nussmeier can have 600 yards passing. I mean, he's on pace for it. You know, we might as well say it. But you know, at some point, 34-30, the battle of the axe guys. What a game! And you got to know tempers are flaring at some point. We're not seeing it, but that's got to be happening in this game. Absolutely, look at on both sides for both of them, and that's a Louisville touchdown. And you know the crowd's going crazy. Nussmeier backs up, touchdown again. I believe that's
that was a bullet.
Exactly. And so we talk about that kid from last year and the maturation process of Nussmeier. He has definitely turned the corner in every way. I believe this kid could finish with 3,000 yards, on the year.
There's a good chance of that, but obviously you got to hand it to Louisville for even staying in this at the moment. Nussmeier's been going off. Flower Mound's offense is clicking on every single level, but Louisville matching them tit for tat of trailing by four right now, but they outscored them in the second quarter.
I just want to know, does anybody play defense over there? I mean, we came into this game tonight talking to LD about Louisville and that defense and saying that wouldn't be the difference. Like I said, Louisville was in a position to where they had to pin their ears back and come after Nussmeier. Doesn't look like that's what they've done tonight. No turnovers in this game. If you look at the penalties, pretty much a clean game. As far as that is concerned, I would say equal yards, but 130 yards more for the Marauders. But still, this game is far from over, guys.
Well, what I see from this stat line right down there at the bottom, that final row, first downs. The fact that both have at least a dozen first downs, and Marcus is already up to almost 20 in the middle of the third quarter, kind of makes me think this has been death by needles. It hasn't been the big plays. It hasn't been the flashy the stud plays from some of these guys. More so, it's the play calling. It's the chess match going back and forth between two really good coaches. And I think because of that, it's opened up the door for Flower Mound Marcus to have that lead, but Louisville not going away at all. And like you said, Will, I mean, back and forth, Louisville hasn't given up, even though they've been down the majority of the game. Yeah,
and you talked about death by 1,000 needles. It's kind of weird because Nussmeier is averaging 17 yards a pass at this point.
That's wild.
But also when you look at Marcus's ground game, they haven't been outstanding, but they've been consistent, getting about 3-4 yards a carry every time you see Edwards take the ball. He has a touchdown on the night as well. So I'm going to be curious to see, is Marcus maybe going to start leaning on them a little bit more to start draining this clock, shorten this game a little bit?
Yeah, that's exactly what's going to happen. And Tyson Edwards just went over 100 yards in this game, and so he'd been held for 40 for a while. And that's a testament to the Fighting Farmer defense. You know what they bring to the table. They're going to keep you out, especially on the ground game. They had, I don't believe that, maybe 200 or 300-yard rushers for the year. Don't quote me on that, but I know that that's a tough Louisville defense.
And Nussmeier, by the way, you mentioned the 3,000-yard mark on the season. He's about 120 away at this moment. And, with 4:42 left in the fourth quarter, there's an opportunity to do so. They're at the 19-yard line, a 4th and 10 up and coming as Nussmeier's most recent pass attempt was incomplete. So Flower Mound Marcus may be going to set up for a field goal here and potentially make it an even 7-point lead for the Marauders in that one. So that brings us to our game across the way. Frisco Liberty trying to hold on against Frisco Wakeland, and they just had a massive stop. 4th and 10 in Liberty territory. Wakeland goes for it, did not get the first down. So Liberty back on offense now at the Ford Center with a chance to win their first game since 2017 with 2 minutes and 12 seconds remaining. And with that being said, down there at the bottom, you see the 3 timeouts left still for Wakeland. So that's not over yet. You might need another first down. Not going to get it on that play initially. But Liberty looking to do the unthinkable and close out the season.
Wakeland should be sick if they lose this game. This is one that they should not. But hey, I got a reverse course on this because my guys at Liberty, if you hadn't won a game on varsity since you're a sophomore, come on, man, get you a W tonight. It's somebody's homecoming because I see moms all over the place around here. I don't know who has their homecoming.
There's no way there's a
homecoming. Dude, I swear to you, there are homecoming moms out there all over the place. So I don't know whose it is, where is it, but then somebody's got homecoming moms outside. So we may want to talk about that.
Wow. I don't know. That's interesting. But 38-35, 419 total yards for Liberty. That's the most they've had in any game here in 2019.
They are unconscious right now.
Yes, it's hard to describe this. No one expected this to be relatively close, let alone Liberty to be on top by 3 with just over 2 in the fourth quarter left.
Maybe someone's aunt is probably saying that too. They didn't expect it.
Wow. 2:05 left. Let's see if Liberty can get a first down here. Oh, going deep.
He caught it.
Did he catch that?
He caught that.
Oh, my gosh, he caught that. Oh, my goodness.
What a catch. Replay, man. Hit it. What a catch. Number one, complete, just a go route. And great throw. And double coverage, guys. Look at this. This thing falls in double coverage. Bam! Whoa, what a catch.
That was a dime.
Way to go. That is awesome right there. Hey, man,
might have just won them the game.
That you know what?
Wow.
It very well may.
Hey, and a credit to the play call here. You're trying to win a football game. Let's not run it into the pile every time. Let's just find a way and go deep. I like that.
I don't think they're going to stop here. I think they have intentions of extending their lead. Well, not on that one.
And
maybe I should just stop talking for a minute.
Well, how about this? Let's stop talking for a minute. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to look at the final minute and a half of this football game from the Star and the Ford Center across the way. We'll take a break. When we come back, can Liberty pull it off?
Let's go, Liberty.
From Frisco when we return on Whataburger Friday Night Stars.
I'm Billy Martin. I'm an Executive Vice President with North Dallas Bank and Trust. It's about authentic intelligence as opposed to artificial intelligence. At local banks like North Dallas, we give you personalized service that you just can't get at the big banks. Everything we do is driven by your best interest. We call it having a high YQ or U quotient.
Hey, I'm Jack. We started SeatGeek because we want fans to have a better, more transparent ticket buying experience. With SeatGeek, you can see the best deals and buy tickets, all with a price match guarantee. The only thing we can't guarantee is that your team will win. So use the code TICKETS20 at checkout for $20 off your first order.
It's game day. A day that should be spent in the living room, not the kitchen. So next game, you just worry about the score, because we've got the food covered. With hand-battered, cooked-to-order, always fresh, never, ever frozen chicken fingers, craveable cane sauce, crispy crinkle-cut fries, and jugs of freshly made tea and lemonade. Raising Cane's Chicken Fingers, one love.
Go Cowboys!
Beautiful locker room inside the Star here in Frisco. Of course, home to the Dallas Cowboys headquarters. And this week, home to Texas high school football. Final week of the regular season, week 11. And things are happening throughout the Dallas-Fort Worth area. One of the things that are happening, we're rejoined now by Professor Diggs, who has made it back safely.
Welcome
I'm
back.
here.
Presto, we go to break and he's here.
It's just it's magic.
It's TV
Cowboys
magic. Yeah, okay. I like the Cowboys magic. I like that as well. There's been some magic going on across the way, and we left going into that break talking about the Liberty Redhawks, trying to close things out. Well, that man right there, big number 28, he was just on the screen on that sideline, rumbled his way into the end zone from more than 20 yards out, and Liberty with the dagger goes up by 10 on Wakeland in the final week.
Number 28 did a miniature dog walking impersonation right there.
Wow.
He walked it out. Way to
Love
go.
it. 10-point lead for the Redhawks and some miscommunication on the kickoff. And barring a miracle, the Redhawks are going to have their first win since November 3rd, 2017, whenever they defeated Frisco at Liberty High School, 27-22.
Way to go, seniors. That's a senior victory right there.
Isn't that just warm the heart a little bit?
If it doesn't, then I have to ask why not.
We saw Plano West win last week. Sorry, Professor
We
Diggs.
don't need to talk about that.
Because they did take down your Plano East Wildcats.
Did you guys lose to West last week?
They did.
I think that happened
That happened. Okay.
in crazy fashion too.
It was in crazy fashion.
And we're seeing some
onside
craziness.
kick and-
So I've seen my share of crazy as a Plano East fan, and crazy is happening right now as Plano East has jumped back into the game with the Jesuit.
Oh, that is true, and we'll have to hit that here in just a moment. But before we do that, and we keep going down our list of games throughout the Friday finals, we've got our first Friday final, and this one has playoff implications in the fact that the winner goes to playoffs. We've got footage from it. It's unfortunately for William Broderick, the McKinney Lions taking down the McKinney Boyd Broncos 10-7 in a huge defensive battle in that huge stadium of McKinney ISD. And the Broncos fall 3 points short from a miracle playoff run, but instead, for the second year in a row, the McKinney Lions are going. Ooh, what about
okay. Wait a minute, big fella. A quick hurdle. I'm sorry.
So you're calling
You
a
have to
40-point
admire a
lead
play
and
like
Prosper
that.
done?
Yeah, I'm calling that done.
What you got?
We ruined Plano's season.
We call that Schadenfreude in psychology land. Pleasure and pain.
Hey, no, we played a great game. We played a great game. It was so close.
From one host to the other, McKinney Boyd taking down Plano. Sorry, Zach Wolchuk.
I'm not.
Yeah, I know you're not. But unfortunately for the Plano Wildcats, they missed the playoffs and basically in the last game of the regular season, give it to McKinney and the Lions, much like they did in 2018 as well. But the final score here, like we talked about, 10-7, and I really didn't see this coming in this district, but my goodness, that's a crazy way for the Lions to find their way into the postseason. They're outgained in total yardage. They force a couple turnovers, but they give a couple back. But overall, it was just enough to eke out a win.
And now they're all going to be watching the Plano East Jesuit game. See how I work that back in there? Because if Plano East can beat Jesuit, McKinney ends up as the top seed in Division II.
Whoa.
Because they'll have tied at 4-3, and they have the head-to-head over Jesuit.
Whoa.
So how was that working out before you left the game?
Well, Jesuit pretty much did whatever they wanted to do offensively. They ran the ball. I left with them down 2 scores and driving, and all of a sudden, Plano East tied the game.
What'd you think about Rance Holman?
He is good. He is sneaky good. He is very fast. Him on the quarterback draw. They don't have much of a running game right now since the defensive line can key on the running back without E.J. Smith to keep him honest. But he, as almost like a wildcat kind of a quarterback does really well.
Let's go across the way to the Ford Center. Look at the celebration going on as Liberty pulls
fun.
it off. The Red Hawks have won their first game since November
Give me
2017.
Liberty!
Oh, they're
I'll
having
give
some
you
fun.
Death
There's the
Heckma.
band, but look at the celebration and the smiles going on.
That is awesome, man.
Yeah.
Those seniors who may have never won a game in their varsity career,
They got one
come
tonight,
out on top,
and they got it in
do
a big
get
stage.
one tonight in a big stage at the Star against a very pesky Wakeland squad, a playoff team, I believe. Correct, Professor Diggs?
Wakeland should be a playoff team.
I think they're
yes.
still a playoff team
Yeah.
because of the loss yesterday
Because they needed
for
both.
Heritage. Yes, because Heritage lost to Lone Star, which was not necessarily a surprise. Wakeland already in the playoff position, which maybe plays a factor here, but a Liberty win over the playoff bound
That is crazy.
Wakeland Wolverines. That's unbelievable.
Yeah, no one. I mean, I got glad this wasn't a pick 'em.
I think everybody would have
I
lost.
would have lost that one too. Oh my God, man! Good job, Liberty, man. For the seniors hadn't won since 2017. That's a quality victory for those guys.
Any victory is a quality victory, right?
Well, when you're 0-9,
Yeah, that's fair.
And when you're trying to rebuild a program, winning that last game is so important because this is what all the underclassmen are going to remember, that big first win. And that's what's going to be driving the practice. It's going to be driving the coaches and what they're telling to the program. We won our last game. There's going to be a euphoria there. Watch out for Liberty next year.
so that it lasts for 8 months, huh?
8 months, 12 months.
It's
With
a lot
realignment.
better. It's a lot better going into the offseason with a potential for a winning streak than it is 0-10.
How many teams get to say
For
they
the
won their
second
last
straight year.
game other than state champions? Frisco Liberty gets to say they won their last
Actually,
game.
not a bad point at all.
I think you agree with anything he says, but that's okay.
Well, unless Wakeland wins out and wins the state championship, they're going to lose their last game.
Right?
Right.
I mean,
Nothing to build on there.
Probably
Nothing-
next week.
Nothing to,
Against
no,
Highland
no,
Park.
It's a playoff loss, right? We made it to the playoffs, but we lost.
Just
We
give
played
it to Liberty.
one more game than
Just-
you.
just
Come on,
let them
Heckma.
have this
I'm
moment.
just saying. I mean, you guys are trying to. Never mind. Forget it. All right.
We're
Way to go,
living it
seniors.
up on Liberty.
Be an optimist.
I am.
We are being optimists. That is exactly the case.
We won our last game, guys. We're going to build on that underclassmen. Let's get on the road. We're going to win state next year. Liberty, yay!
Sounds like a coach right there.
Well, that's a drop.
Oklahoma drills. Remember that one catch? You got it. That 20-yard run. We got to go to state. Realignment and some help.
Winning streak.
I remember some mention of taking the goalposts with us.
Let's not do that here.
Star.
Let's not do that here,
Jerry
guys.
would not like that. Let's not do that. Let's move on to another Friday final between Keller and Keller Central in a battle between two of the better teams in 5-6A, two playoff contenders. And, well, Keller comes out with the win, 21-14, 300 yards of total offense for the Indians.
Can I tell you something, man? You
Yes.
don't have to go any further than this.
Why?
You don't. Just stop.
Why is that?
Because you're so lucky and you get on my nerves. There's no rhyme or reason to nothing that you do, and you win, and it makes me so freaking mad, bro.
I took the Chargers as well, so I feel your pain.
God! And the thing is that he wants to, and he's, and it's like he makes it seem as though he guessed. He guessed. It was
not true.
It was you guessed, bro. And
I
if
think
you,
Keller's a better team.
This game was 14-0, and all was good in the world.
If it makes you
Unbelievable.
feel better, both Zach and Eric picked Central, so I was the only one
that
that
does
picked
not make
Keller.
me feel better. You only took took Keller because we all took Central. That is the only reason
I
why you
picked
did.
Keller first before you picked Central.
That's a lie.
He did.
Ah!
I'm sorry.
I picked first.
I'm officially 0-1 in my pick career.
Woo, there it is, William.
Welcome to the team,
Welcome to
William.
the show.
Yeah, the guy that made the difference for Keller is the guy that's been doing it since we've been talking about him. Enoch Nchobo. Nchobo is a dog, man. 169 yards,
169
bucks,
with
two
two
touches. I mean, he was everything for Keller. The Chargers just could not get their offense going tonight behind that. Keller Indians, Enoch Nchobo just basically kept those guys standing on the sidelines drinking Gatorade.
And that's really kind of been the recipe for success for Keller in their wins this year is you rely on Nchobo. The defense just does enough to eke by. And against a team like Keller, matchup-wise, I think that offense just wasn't there for Central. That's what I was alluding to. But Central's offense, I don't think they were up to par against that defense of Keller. And I think that's one of the reasons why.
It's very surprising for me for Keller Central to allow this many rushing yards when you know that they rely heavily on their defense from everything that they've done so far. But Enoch Nchobo, a kid that runs bigger than what he is. I mean, he's like 190 pounds, but he runs like a 230-pound guy. When you look at the stat sheet every week, he's 160, 150, 2 touches. I mean, and look, I believe he had something like 20 carries for this game. So this guy is a bell cow for the Indians, and they give him all that he can handle every Friday.
And when you're running the ball that much and having success with it, that defense, as vaunted as it is for Keller Central, they're just going to get tired out.
Yeah,
when you're on the field for that much time, there's only so much you can do. There's only so long you can hold until you just don't have any energy left.
DJ Graham, 2 touchdowns. This is a player who comes out every week. I believe he had a couple of interception returns for touchdowns last week.
Wow.
I mean, this is a player. And I don't think Keller Central is a playoff contender, but give it to Keller. They wore him down in the second half. That's all there is to it.
You're absolutely right. And both of these teams, playoff contenders, maybe not necessarily, but still a big win for Keller and the Indians to close out their regular season on a high note. Continuing in that, or actually, let's go to 7-5A rather than 6A. 7-5A Division 2, Lovejoy and Frisco. And we mentioned this earlier as kind of a odd championship game of sorts in that district just because of some weird scenarios that we had to look at, but Frisco takes care of business. Those scenarios are thrown out the window, and the Raccoons come out on top in this one, 35-17, and they did it the way they always do, through the ground game, and they had an incredible game from actually a friend of the show, Bryson Clemens, who I got a chance to talk to, a great young man, senior running back, and over 1,000 yards now on the year as he goes for $177 and 3 touchdowns tonight.
Yeah. Let me just correct one thing. That I was hearing you guys talk about this on the way in.
Yeah, there was confusion here.
And because Braswell, if they win, and last time I saw they're up big over Denison, they beat Frisco earlier in the year. Denison Braswell is technically going to be your district champion.
Wow.
So they will be your 1 seed.
Braswell.
Frisco will end up being the 2 seed. But back to y'all.
No, I like that. I'm glad that you corrected that because that was some confusion earlier in the year. But Frisco, however, does take care of business tonight, and the ground game, once again, is the strong part for that.
From one great running back to the next great running back. That's pretty much exactly what it was.
Well, we said this is the year of the quarterback in comparison to last year. Also, the year of the running back. We have had some really
spots. Absolutely,
we've had some really good, bright spots here in the Metroplex at the running back position. So, hats off to Bryson Clemens, the guy put on the show today, 177 yards, 3 touches. Kyrie Green. Not a pretty pedestrian night for him. 88 yards, no touchdowns in the air. The Raccoons are a very athletic team. We had them here in a tough matchup, and I believe that was Wakeland that they had an opportunity to play here at the Star. But the Raccoons, man, they're loaded, man. Plenty of athletes, 9-1 on the season, I believe, for those guys as they take that district.
I'm with you, by the way, Kyle. Bumper Pool, awesome football
great name, right?
Awesome football name.
That's a great football name. And yeah, he's not there to help slow down that running game for Frisco today.
But really, this is actually Frisco has been doing it more through the air. So it's almost like they went back to the ground game, maybe something they saw on the tape. I know Frisco's been known for the ground game previously, but with the new coach, they've tried to do it a little bit more through the air, a little more diversified attack. And so to put it on the ground and do that against Lovejoy shows me that they saw some weaknesses in the tape and exploited it. So heads up to the Frisco coaching staff for that.
Yeah. And I'm looking at this, and I'm not exactly sure how this is playing out, but I'm looking at some of the playoff scenarios that we had this year, and it says Frisco will be the number 1 seed if it beats Lovejoy.
If it beats Lovejoy and Braswell loses, if Braswell won,
that just wasn't. That wasn't what was on here, and so I was just confused, and maybe it's wrong here or what's going on, but they are tied in that district. Who did Braswell lose to?
Braswell lost to. They lost to. Oh, you're right. They lost to Denison. So Frisco. We'll go back to you. Frisco lost to Denison.
So Frisco.
The Braswell.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking, because Frisco's one loss was to that Denison squad in like a tight,
10
weird
10-7.
rain.
Weird game.
It was like a rain shortened, or not shortened,
but yeah.
Like a rain game overall. So it is Frisco that is the champion, correct?
Correct. Frisco will get the number 1.
Just wanted to get that clarified, because I was looking at that earlier, and I remember you saying something like that, and wanted to get that clarified, but it was the other way around.
It is the other way around. It is clarified. My apologies to the world.
That's okay.
Sorry.
That's okay. We've
Mea culpa.
definitely been wrong
Mea
before.
culpa.
Let's go on to what is a sad game for Mr. Zach Wolchuk, who is not here to defend himself, but we all get a chance to kind of laugh at Zach.
You know what this is, right?
The world's tiniest violin.
There it is.
Yeah?
Playing for Chuckster.
We love
Brutal.
Plano High, by the way.
You are brutal.
We love Plano
Yeah.
High, and we love everybody that's watching the show from Plano High, and we love Zach Wolchuk at the same time. But, man, what a disappointing end of the season. They currently trail 55-20 to the Prosper Eagles. Plano, who was riding so high after wins over McKinney, Plano East, they're going to lose their final 3 games and miss the playoffs. A loss to Jesuit, a loss to McKinney, Boyd, and then a blowout loss, and it's getting worse for the Orlando Wildcats.
Football is hard.
It is hard.
No way, Professor.
Heartbreaking.
Professor said football is hard.
It's hard. Plano was kicking it into high gear. We were looking at them maybe as a second-place team in this district, and the injuries just too much for them. But at the same time, good teams overcome injuries.
There you go.
Fair.
So gather around as I put it down, guys. So the Plano Wildcats are putting guys in Division I. We'll start with the one, Mr. J.T. Lane, 177 yards, 2 touches today. I mean, look at the numbers, guys. I mean, Prosper, we were talking about that defense that needed to show up. Wow. They showed up in a big way today, 66 yards rushing, only allowing 180 yards, 2 turnovers for the defense, and 0 for the Eagles. So it looks like to me that the Eagles went in. They took care of business. They did what they needed to do. I don't know. I cannot repeat what Wolchuk said to me on the text that I sent him. I will save that for a different show. How...
What show would you like to save that for?
I did text him. I texted him the score, and I texted him the score. But his answer, his reply to me was, "It's not PG."
That is brutal.
And that's okay, Chuck.
Can I see it during the break?
I love you too. It was tough. But either way, Prosper went in. They did their thing. I mean, and look, I mean, let's start talking about the playoffs. Plano's not in it.
They're not.
They're with Lincoln.
They're not in it. Oh.
Misery loves company. Hey, guys.
Oh, there it is. The victory pose from the first show. Let's check in on the Plano East Panthers for Mr. Professor Diggs. And this isn't a score. We're not going to have.
No, let's talk about it.
We're not going to have a graphic or anything for it, but the Jesuit Rangers just scored to go up on top of Plano East with 6:30 left in the fourth quarter. It's 41-34.
It is a one-score game. Plano East has shown a little offensive moxie against Jesuit.
They absolutely
and
have.
I was a little worried about Jesuit again once they lost E.J. Smith. I calmly told you I thought they had a chance to win, and they're going to be driving. And knowing Joey McCullough, they will go for 2. We talked about that with DeSoto and Cedar Hill. If they get down there, last game of the season, they're going for 2.
Wow. So you think if they go down and score, they're going for 2
They're going
immediately,
for 2.
no matter what
Without a
time's
doubt.
left on the clock?
Yep.
Wow.
But that's
Unless they score 30 in the next 30 seconds. But if they go down
that's fair.
3
If you
4 minute drive.
Score extremely quick here.
Yeah, not any Plano East implications at all. So they're playing with house money for real.
They really are.
And they, I mean, if you get down and go for 2, that's that thing you were talking about. You win the last game.
That's right.
You build on that last game, and then next thing you know, you're in state next year because you won the last game.
Watch out for the Panthers
I
next
love
year.
it. I love it. You know what?
You're starting to get on the same wavelength there.
Sink it in a little bit. This guy's growing
This
on me.
is awful. I do want
Like
to
an
give a quick
amoeba.
update. While we've got a little bit of a pause here before we go on to our next game, I've got an update on the tag board. We're going to go to the tag board really quickly. And this one's coming from Highlander Stadium. Uncle Fraz, of course, our great Guy Frazier out at Highlander Stadium. They were tied up at 21 with Mansfield Timberview in the middle of the third quarter. However, Drew Scott, look at this catch.
What a catch.
And then he takes it, whoop, all the way. Look at that play from Drew Scott.
That's kind of sick.
Next level athlete.
That's kind of sick.
And the guy is a lacrosse star. He's been all over the place, and you can see the size. That was unreal.
But Drew Scott's been doing that all season.
He really has. He's had an incredible season.
Yeah, I mean, that was simple.
That, though,
he's been doing he's been doing that all season. He started
that move at the end.
He's been doing it all season. He's done moves like that against Rockwall. He even did it against Lone Star. I mean, the kid is a stud.
Kid is a stud, and Highland Park continues to lead by a touchdown in that one. Let's move on, going to the TAPS level. Let's go to Prestonwood Christian Academy taking on Bishop Dunn. We talked about Prestonwood in need of a statement win after they kind of had that win last week against Bishop Lynch. Well, they're able to jump out to a massive lead in this one, 29 points up on Bishop Dunn, 49-20.
Is that a typo?
That is not a typo. In terms of the turnovers on the Bishop Dunn side, that is not a typo.
Yeah,
I believe there was 4 in the first half.
Yeah, it's hard to beat anybody with 5 turnovers in a football game. And so I guess Prestonwood got the right feel-good opponent. Is it Bishop Dunn or is it Bishop?
Dude.
Yeah, we got to have one before we leave the studio.
Absolutely.
And so Prestonwood, I mean, they're getting things back. Hopefully they can get their quarterback in the next couple weeks because he's going to make the difference for them if they want to advance far in the TAPS playoffs.
Yeah, and you look at McGuire Martin again, his second start at varsity as a freshman. He's had a pretty good night. 22 of 31 with 170 yards and 2 touchdowns.
That's not bad.
That's a pretty good little stat line. Yeah. And it's once again, it's what we talked about in the pregame show, talking about how Prestonwood and his coaching staff is putting McGuire Martin in an opportunity to where he doesn't have to necessarily do something special. He doesn't have to go over the top. He doesn't have to do anything really overly complicated. You just got to be able to do your own job.
Well, it says a lot about who he is.
And by the way, this just went final. Same score, 49-20.
He's a freshman starting on varsity. So no matter how you put it together, he's going to
be special.
He's got butterflies to boot, right? And so it doesn't matter the situation because he knows how the enormity of the situation. But that's awesome. At least Prestonwood knows who they're going to be with for the. I mean, it's not like the kid loses any eligibility, right? So it's going to be 4 years no matter what it is. Better yet, better now than never. And so that's awesome, getting them that experience. And if anything does happen in the playoffs, at least they got their guy they know who they can rely on.
And one thing I always kind of view as a calibration game, if you're not a TAPS fan or you're kind of wondering, a little bit about that, Prestonwood beat Wiley earlier this year. So if you're wondering the kind of caliber team they are in the big picture, they would be a 6A playoff team for sure.
Wow, that's good to know. And one thing real quickly, we talked about Prestonwood in that running game earlier in the pregame show. That running game has actually taken off. Timothy Taylor, who entered today. He had 66 carries. He had 250 yards and 4 touchdowns on the entire year. That was his stat total entering the year. Today, he has 147 yards and 5 touchdowns on the ground.
9 yards a carry.
That'll get you in college.
Yeah. That was a little bit of a flip-flop, wasn't it?
That'll get you in school quick.
And I believe he's a sophomore. He's an underclassman, Timothy Taylor is. So not only did he almost match his yardage total from his previous 66 carries, but he scored 5 times. And he almost or more than doubled his previous output in terms of finding pay dirt. So
a lot of what I'm hearing is Prestonwood's going to be good for years to come.
For a little while.
Yeah, they're going to start pending transfers. Of course, that's always going to be a part of the conversation in terms of private schools like that. But pending transfers, Prestonwood's going to be set up for a little bit of time.
Well, one thing that's actually a big factor for Prestonwood has kind of been how bad Plano West has been because a lot of those players kind of stream over there very close in proximity. So if Plano West gets better, you could see that kind of be a downfall of Prestonwood as well.
That's a good point. You don't necessarily think about the close in proximity and the transfers potentially being a factor there, but that is a good point.
Professor,
overall.
The kids at Plano West are going to stay at Plano West, and the kids at Prestonwood are going to be at Prestonwood. I promise you, nobody's going to say,
Well, the next time that somebody does that, Professor Diggs is going to shoot you a tweet.
Pretty much. It happens all the time.
It's okay. Prestonwood's Prestonwood, and so They've been that way for a
Plano
reason.
West won a game, and they're going to carry that into next.
That's
year.
right.
Thank you, Will.i.am. I forgot. Oh my God.
Bring
No, they
that
lost
boom, boom
tonight to
pow.
Allen, so. Let's move
Building
on.
our year off of that
Before
one.
we keep going to old Black Eyed Peas references, let's go to 10-6A. Couple games tonight with a lot of implications. Saxy and the Mustangs against the Rowlett Eagles. This turned into a football game late.
It has been crazy. I mean, just going back and forth, safeties, all kinds of crazy things. Rowlett has overplayed their pay grade in this game, in my opinion, and I think Rowlett, if I saw it right, missed a 2-point conversion to get this game tied on their last touchdown. So Saxy up by 2. And
That is correct. They tried it on the 2-point conversion and the run failed.
Yeah, this is a game. Again, we always talk about those injury updates. Route for Rowlett, it was not playing this game, didn't make the stat sheet at all. Didn't matter, man, because Rowlett still played a very competitive game. But Sean Coleman for the Mustangs, man, what a game.
Yeah, he went off.
This kid had the running game, period. Him and Xavier Foreman, 3 touchdowns for Sean Coleman and 2 for Xavier Foreman. Sean Coleman, 16 carries, 179 yards. What a night. Okay, what a night. And Saxy, I believe, wins the division based off of this victory.
Yes.
Okay, cool. You see how I looked over to you?
The Avoid Allen Bowl. I got you a little salty last week.
What's that again?
The Avoid Whoever Bowl.
Oh yeah, but so this is the one. This is the one to stay out of the way, right?
That's right.
All right, get your kids out the street. This is a get your kids out the street game.
What? What does that even mean?
That means that a car is coming and you better get your kids out of the streets because a big bus is coming.
That's one of the worst things you've ever said on this show.
Well, get your kids out of the street because the Allen bus is coming. All right?
No.
That's a new one for you. That's a Heckma-ism.
That is a bad Heckma-ism.
Get your kids out the street. Avoid Allen Bowl. Just simply say, get your kids out the street next time, Professor.
Yes, sir.
Let's go to Wiley and check in on the Pirates. I'm losing it over here. Let's check in on the Wiley Pirates. 29-9 final score. Yeah, they took care of business as well.
Wow.
I'm not even going to say anything close to it.
Is that the what are they called? This SG? What are they called?
The Colonels.
Colonels.
Colonel Sanders.
I'm learning.
My man. What did you call them the other day? The Colonels.
The Colonels. Stop it, what is it, Malachi?
Malachi
instead of Malachi. 29-9, the final score. Though Wiley takes care of business, and they did it in terms of no, you're not. They did it in a balanced attack, and that's kind of what I think was the most impressive part about this. The defense played well, forced a trio of turnovers, and then you see the even numbers on the rushing and then on the throwing through the air as well for Wiley. Just a good game, and it's kind of what we expected out of the Pirates overall.
Yeah, I would say the same thing. Wiley has definitely the better defense, offense as well. But, this is a down year for South Garland. This is a team.
It's been a down decade for South Garland, being honest.
But you know what? They hadn't always been that way.
Hadn't always been like that.
Hadn't always been. And it's one of those things in District 10-6A, everybody's kind of waiting on it. When is South Garland going to come back to its prominence? And not happening. Even for the Owls. I mean, they're not what they used to be either. So a lot of teams taking the helm. But, shout out to, the teams that are Wiley, who's making those strides to, even though the schedule, their numbers don't say how good they are at 5-4. I believe they finished the season at 6-4, but they do. Are they in second place in the district, or did they win the district with that one?
No, Saxy, I believe, still wins the district.
But Wiley had the better.
Wiley beat Saxy, and they will technically win by tiebreaker, both teams being 6-1.
Okay.
But depending on what happens with the Naaman Forest game and how that kind of shakes out, which right now Naaman Forest is winning. If Rowlett, for whatever reason, that could knock Rowlett out of the playoffs, that puts Wiley D1.
Whoa.
That's interesting.
Now, is that a get your kids out the street moment right now?
I don't know.
It looks like Naaman Forest is going to pull it out. 50 seconds left in the game, and they're up 42-21 on Garland Lakeview Centennial.
I just don't understand.
This district is nuts.
I'm telling you.
This district is nuts.
I mean,
you throw it all out the window, man.
I told you. And I didn't want to be this right, but what I'm saying
You
is
were absolutely right.
you look at Naaman Forest and what they've done in the district.
They
and who
started 0-5.
Right, and who they've lost to. And then you look at Garland Lakeview Centennial. They have one of the best running backs in the whole in North Texas, and Naaman Forest comes in and they beat them. Period. It's weird. It's just
weird.
And you talk about a team that's been up and down. I mean, this is a team that went scoreless against Berkner to overtime, 0-0, a Berkner team that's not very good this year. And then they kind of peaked as district got going, and now they took on Naaman Forest.
Wait a minute. That was an overtime 0-0?
Well, the final score is 7-0, but it went to overtime 0-0.
Whoa. It's like a soccer match.
This is a team with Kamar Wheaton on it.
Yeah.
That's as bad as it gets.
That's not good. So with that being said, with Naaman Forest, or really with Rowlett losing overall, Lakeview Centennial clinched a playoff spot with the final score of that Saxe-Rowlett game, and then Garland Naaman Forest is going to find their way into the playoffs.
We're going to a playoff game.
Going to a playoff game, and Rowlett is going home.
They are done.
Going fishing.
So not only they were playing for their life, and they came up short on that 2-point conversion to send it to OT.
And that's
the end of their season.
And that is
dreaming about that.
That is disappointing by Rowlett standards, because they are a school that typically always makes the playoffs.
Oh, yeah.
And they always have the talent to get them far into the playoffs. This is, wow, what a disappointment for that school and the program.
I feel like it's been a good amount of time since Rowlett has missed the playoffs.
It's been a while. I mean, one of my best memories of high school football was about 15 years ago, Rowlett beating Allen at Texas Stadium in the Breakfast Bowl.
Wow.
Completely unexpected. Allen coming off a state title, and Rowlett just took them to task.
And they almost took Saxe into overtime, or at least close to overtime tonight, but weren't able to get the job done in that one. One more game before we get into hour number 2 here of Whataburger Friday Night Stars. What time is it, Heckma?
What do you mean?
It's Salina time.
It's Salina time.
Salina time.
It's Salina. What do you mean? What are you talking about?
Wait, what is it? Hold up.
Wait,
I wasn't listening.
Nobody cued me on that. What are you talking about?
Well, I was trying to cue you. They held in there originally, but weren't able to hold off the hard-charging Argyle Ball Club. 469 yards. And is it surprising to see that passing stat over 300 again?
Bo Hogaboo!
Hogaboo!
I'm telling you, man, this kid is doing it. 307, 3 touchdowns. Bo Hogaboo, man.
That's a pedestrian.
But remember
stat line
last
for
year,
him.
Argyle took it to Salina, and once the playoffs came around, Salina much more competitive in the rematch.
Yeah, well, let's see. I don't think Salina's going to make it.
It wasn't this big of a blowout. It
was a bigger blowout last
is
year.
what I was saying. Yeah, 2018, that was a massive blowout. So it's not
Because
impossible.
it could be Salina time, playoffs.
Nah. But you know what?
That's so dismissive. Nah.
I mean,
it's over.
He
does love his Argyle Eagles.
Tito Bice, he's usually Mr. Do-It-All for the Eagles. Not so much today. Luke Ferris took over. Luke Ferris did his thing. I believe he had something like 150 yards from scrimmage. So way to go, Argyle, doing it again.
Argyle 10-0 now. A perfect regular season. I feel like we've said that plenty of times about the Argyle Eagles over the past decade.
Regular season kings, right?
Yeah. I mean, that's what you've said about a lot of teams, but you got to get it done in the postseason. And Argyle has won state championships, but last year, of course, they lost to La Vega, and there was a whole ordeal in that one. So, I don't know. It's interesting to look at moving forward. Let's take a break. When we come back, it's the final hour of the regular season here for Whataburger Friday Night Stars. We're going to look at Euless Trinity and Richland, see how those Trojans continue to run it up on Richland in a district championship game of 3-6A. We'll check in with that crazy Mansfield, Timberview, and Highland Park matchup. We'll see how Haltom and the Buffaloes are doing, needing an 11-point win or more against San Angelo Central when we return here on Whataburger Friday Night Stars.
Gear up for back to sport at Academy Sports and Outdoors.
It's game day. A day that should be spent in the living room, not the kitchen. So next game, you just worry about the score, because we've got the food covered. With hand-battered, cooked-to-order, always fresh, never, ever frozen chicken fingers, craveable cane sauce, crispy crinkle-cut fries, and jugs of freshly made tea and lemonade. Raising Cane's Chicken Fingers, one love.
Go Cowboys!
It's in all of us, and we won't hold it back. Not one little bit. Nope, we embrace it, letting it fuel our passions, pushing us deeper than we thought possible and keeping us curious. It's what sets us apart from the herd. It's how we come up with the ideas that make people say, why didn't I think of that? See, when you nurture the creativity and passion that's in all of us, you'll learn nothing is out of reach.
Get excited, Whataburger fans. Our one-of-a-kind mushroom Swiss burger is back.
And now it's an all-time favorite.
If you love mushrooms, you're going to love this burger.
The double cheese, the mushrooms was absolutely amazing.
It's a really good balance between the mushrooms and the Swiss. And that au jus sauce on top.
The creamy au jus sauce.
It really complements the mushrooms. Everything just works perfectly together.
It's just perfect. Every bite's perfect.
It's not just a mushroom Swiss burger, it's a Whataburger mushroom Swiss burger.
The beautiful Lombardi trophies headlining the entryway of
We need another one.
Frisco. Oh, absolutely. We absolutely
need another one.
Need one this year. That'd be awesome.
We need another one.
Big win this week would help.
We need another one.
Against the Minnesota Vikings on Sunday Night Football. We're talking about Friday Night Football here at the Star in Frisco. Hour number 4 of Whataburger Friday Night Stars. Glad you've stuck around with us this long, and sorry for Heckma if he has offended anybody tonight. He's absolutely offended me.
I was a little offended by that, too.
Professor
Heckma.
Diggs,
Hey.
Heckma Harrison, William Broderick. I'm Kyle Yeomans here for Friday Night Stars. And we've talked about a lot of the games and how they've kind of started unfolding this and unwrapping what is the present of Texas high school football playoffs.
I love it.
Playoffs.
I love it.
Just one little section at a time. We're tearing that wrapping paper off, and we're getting what's a beautiful present that's going to sit out in front of us until basically Christmas. But we get to stare at the Christmas present all the way up until Christmas. But let's get through some more of these games before we go to the Trinity and Richland beatdown, at least what we're talking about right now. We've got a barn burner in Louisville between the Fightin' Farmers and Flower Mound Marcus. Oh my goodness, we're getting a classic Battle of the Axe from Louisville. As we talked about it earlier, Flower Mound Marcus got off to a fiery start. One of the big reasons why was Garrett Nussmeier, over 300 yards in the first half alone. Well, he's up over 434, nearing the 3,000-yard mark. I think he's only about 20 away. Now, Louisville has stormed back, put up 16 points in the second quarter, 13 points in the third quarter, and they've only put up 6 in the fourth quarter, but that's all they needed, and we're tied up at 42 with 55 seconds remaining in this classic rivalry matchup.
Marcus, over 600 yards of offense. They are doing it. Nussmeier just crazy numbers, 434 yards, and this looks like the kind of game that might go to overtime.
It also could be one of the games that ends up in one of those wild finishes that we've seen some of these rivalry games, most notably Flower Mound Marcus. It seems like Flower Mound Marcus, anytime they touch the field, it's almost an automatic crazy rivalry game. Mallory Hartley's at this football game getting up some great looks. She'll also be giving some interviews at the end of this one. But overall, I mean, looking at what both of these sides have been able to do. Flower Mound Marcus, like you said, over the 600 yards of offense. And then Louisville, despite being held under 400 yards of offense, the defense has forced a couple of turnovers. And I think that's really the reason why the Fighting Farmers are still fighting in this one, the fact that they were able to tie things up at 42.
Yeah, who knew? Who knew that Louisville had an offense that could put this many 42 points on the board, but they got it. I mean, LD said it earlier when we talked to him that, look, throw all the records out. This is going to be a tough game. Battle of the Axe. The seniors on both sides don't want to be responsible for losing this axe, okay? So Louisville won it last year, I believe, and Marcus is trying to get that thing back home.
Well, you want to see how, and you talk about it, and he said, I don't want to be cliche. I don't want to say the cliche term of let's throw the records out the window. Well, cliches are cliche for a reason, because that's most of the time it reigns true. And this is one of those moments. Let's look at the scoring summary, shall we, of this game. Marcus scored first, and then Louisville followed with a touchdown. Then Marcus scored again. Louisville followed with a touchdown. Marcus, Louisville. Marcus, Louisville. Marcus, Louisville. Marcus, Louisville. You get the point. Nobody has scored back-to-back times in this football game throughout the entirety of the game played
basically what
so
you're
far.
saying, last person to have the ball wins the game.
That might be the case.
That is it. That is the case. You just pretty much summed it up with
the last team that scored, the Flower Mound Marcus Marauders.
Uh-oh.
So it might be Louisville.
It's over. Louisville is going to win this game.
So that means Louisville might score here unless the trend breaks, something crazy happens, then we'll be right there to watch it. Now, Louisville does have the football. They're on their own 36-yard line, 55 seconds left, and that one continues from Louisville throughout the last minute of the ball game there. But that is just unreal to look at. I don't know if I've ever seen a more soothing back and forth on the scoring summary in my entire life. It's so satisfying seeing both sides go back and forth like that all the way through, but that's exactly the case here.
And you would think 42-42 just got touchdowns back and forth, but there's been safeties, there's been field goals. Weird. It has been a crazy way to get there. Our guy LaDarren, he nailed it when we talked about turnovers and how it would impact the game. He thought Louisville had the defense that would better create turnovers. So far, they're winning 2-0 in that turnover battle, and it's given Louisville a chance, who's very unarguably been outplayed in this game, a chance to go down there and get in field goal position and take this thing home.
7 seconds left, and two straight incomplete passes from Louisville has brought up a 3rd and 10, staying at that 36-yard line, but there's only 7 seconds remaining.
Yeah, this thing's going to OT.
So it's either Hail Mary, craziness ensues, and we have absolute bedlam in Louisville, or we go to OT.
Which might ensue ladder like last year with the Colony and Lone Star.
That would be interesting.
That would be crazy.
That would be awesome. We'll see how that one turns out here in a moment. We'll continue to give you updates. Let's quickly check in on Euless, Trinity, and Richland. Of course, we talked about how just some odd circumstances for Richland. The Cinderella story. Is the pumpkin here?
Yeah, that's basically what's happened. The carriage has turned into a pumpkin. Forget about it. And you want to say, hey, look, I live to offend people, but not everybody. And I wasn't trying to say that the Running Rebels didn't have a chance, just not tonight. It'd be the wrong time to need a win with Euless Trinity in town, and you know what they were going to do. They were going to run the ball, and they have given them a steady dose of running that ball. It has been Zachariah Moore that has done it for Euless Trinity, 25 yards and a touchdown, but 56-7, guys. And that Euless Trinity defense, when we say what time is this, Salina, we have to start saying what time is it? It's Haka time.
It's Trinity time. Trojan time.
I'm telling you, man, I don't know about that, but we're going to go with what we got right here. But that defense is playing balls.
What will it take to get you to do the Haka on air?
It would take much, but I'm
just wondering.
Well, Heckma's done today.
You stop it, okay? It's Trinity, they're going to bring that running game and they're going to bring that defense like you see right there, and they are all over the place. Ball down, man down, let's go. I love it, man.
Well, and that's the thing. We talk about the running game all the time of the Trinity and what they're able to do on the ground. The defense deserves a lot of credit. And you can see them swarming to the football. There you see the fumble, picking it up, just a solid tackle. And look at all the black jerseys around the football.
I love it when they wear that all black, man. They look so intimidating in that. And, this is another game for Trinity. Wow.
Look at that stat. 5 turnovers.
Wait a minute. Yeah, you got to change your name from the Running Rebels to just the Rebels when you go -5. Okay, that is boy. That's
wasn't a whole lot of running going on.
Nah, man, there's a
the fumbling Rebels.
Yeah,
maybe?
200 more turnovers than rushing yards.
247 yards rushing for the Trojans. 135 yards passing for the Trojans. Now that's something that needs to be talked about. How did they do that?
Is that a school record?
Yeah, it's got to be. It's got to be a school record. But five turnovers for the Running Rebels. That's obviously what made the difference. And that Trinity defense is not having it.
See, and I think that's really where the story lies in this game. Yeah, you're going to look at the 247 yards, but we even mentioned it really at the early part of this overtime show, saying, hey, they're doing it in the way that you thought they would do it, and that's by running the football.
Yeah, that's
the defense.
That's it.
My goodness,
yeah,
they have been unreal.
That is their claim to fame, and anyone that knows football well enough to talk about it like I do, you got to have a pretty good running game and also a pretty good defense to be a championship level team. Professor Diggs, what you got on that?
So what you're saying is you have to be good to be good?
Yes, sir.
You guys agreed on something. I like it.
You like that? It happened. It took us 4 hours,
but
we got
a little
there.
bit, but we got there.
Get your kids out the street.
We've only got 15 minutes left in the show, so we've got plenty of time to make some.
Now, who's in that same bracket with Trinity? That's what we got to start talking about. Who wants to get the Avoid Bowl going on there?
How about the Duncanville Panthers?
No, that's not.
How about the Arlington Martin Warriors? How about South Lake?
Are they in there as well?
Yeah.
That
D1.
is a loaded bracket.
D1 right there.
And we'll build those brackets here in just a moment. I do want to run through a couple more of these games. Longview and Mesquite. Longview's putting it on. Mesquite and the Skeeters in this one. 11-6A belongs to the Longview Lobos. It really hasn't been close. It's a Friday night final, and the Lobos on the ground today. Not a ton of Haynes King in this one.
No. Yeah, Haynes King, played for, a quarter, maybe, 94 yards throwing. And it all comes down to the running game for the Lobos, which is smart. They did a lot of that. Caden Meredith, this kid, the running back position, again, we talk about the story of the season in Texas high school football. The tell of the running backs with last year was all about defense. We got some guys here in the state, North Texas, that are awesome, and Meredith is one of them.
Well, even Meredith's backups, Haynes King and Kevin Jones, when they got in, the total of 9 carries, averaged 12 yards a carry, 3 touchdowns. So not only having that one explosive runner, but having guys behind him when he needs a little bit of a rest, having those guys behind him that can also be equally, if not a little bit more explosive.
Right.
You can't really discount that.
Skeeter sent the guys to D1 as well.
How many year ofs is it going to be? Why can't it be the year of the center? What do you have against centers?
Maybe the centers are the reason why.
I didn't.
Oh, okay.
Tight end.
Oh, okay, cool. I
that's
know.
what I played.
I just figured as much.
Let's move on. Let's look at Mansfield Lake Ridge and Mansfield Summit. And Lake Ridge, of course, are they eliminated from playoff contention?
They are done.
Wow.
Who's done?
That's crazy. Lake Ridge. Mansfield Lake Ridge out of playoff contention. However, they were playing pretty well against Mansfield Summit. On the road, 35-21 is the score in that one. And Lake Ridge and the Eagles putting up some points against Summit. This is kind of Lake Ridge squad we thought we would see. It didn't necessarily materialize the way that they wanted it to.
I want to give a shout out to Barstool Mansfield Summit, who attacked me for picking Lake Ridge in this game.
Wow.
They went off. They did the Barstool thing.
Wait, high schools have Barstools
They do.
now?
They do.
What they do?
I got. Well, you can go to see it on Twitter.
Is it pretty good?
Was it rough?
It's a little rough. Like,
was it really?
Like toilet stuff, about my opinion, metaphors. But when I looked at this game, this is a game where you have Lake Ridge, who has everything to play for as far as momentum for offseason. And Summit's a little bit down right now. Summit losing to Waxahachie last week. I think the DeSoto game just completely zapped their, all of the karma that they've had this year was zapped in that DeSoto game. Another 1-point DeSoto win. And they've been trending down. And I thought they wouldn't beat Lake Ridge, and Lake Ridge is doing it.
Yeah, Summit is I have no idea who Summit is. You know,
it is a hit or miss.
I
man.
don't know who they are. When they got the victory versus DeSoto, I was probably more stunned than anybody because I was like, how did this happen? I went back through the tape. I asked Guy a ton of questions. How did it happen? And
it was cold.
Thank you. And it was cold and it was wet. And that's what it was. And it came down to they lost by 1 point. But then to lay an egg versus Waxahachie, you know, it's just those back-to-back losses. And so they are a playoff-bound team. But how good are they really after losing back-to-back like that?
That game just went final.
It did go final indeed. And Lake Ridge takes down Summit and one of the most hit-or-miss teams we've seen here in 2019 throughout Texas high school football.
They got their Super Bowl, man. They won it versus DeSoto. So.
And they have a very winnable first game of the playoffs against Lake Highlands, assuming Lake Highlands is beating Richardson like I expect them to be doing. So they can bounce back.
Yeah, they could bounce back, and I fully expect that to happen. They
don't sleep on Lake Highlands now.
Lake Highlands defeated Richardson 27-7. That's a final score as well.
There you go.
Let's take a look at the Mansfield Timberview and Highland Park matchup. We saw the very impressive play from Drew Scott a little bit earlier that kind of sparked Highland Park. And since then, the Scotties, well, they haven't looked back at all. And it started a little bit slow. It was back and forth through the first three quarters. And then in the middle of that third quarter, Highland Park made some adjustments. And since then, they have put up 21 unanswered. And just like that, or actually 22 unanswered, to make it a 43-21 lead. And this has been an explosive game back and forth. I mean, you've had a 59-yard run, a 96-yard kickoff return, 41-yard pass, 80-yard pass from Chandler Morris to Hunter Heath. We saw the Hunter Heath touchdown run just a moment ago. That one was from 75 yards out. You had Adam Cash, that's a football name, checking in a 78-yard pick six. So overall, this game has just been full of the big plays from both sides throughout the course of the night.
You know, it has been, but again, when you start digging deeper inside these stats, you see Highland Park 3 turnovers, and you also see that they've almost tripled the yardage of Timberview. I mean, that lets me know that Timberview has stayed in this game because of turnovers. Highland Park kind of steadied themselves, and they're putting it on them as the district champs, and they are getting ready to take on a Wakeland team that has just lost to Frisco Liberty. So.
Yeah, you got to know Coach Allen is not happy about those turnovers going into the playoffs. That's the only reason why the other team was stayed in this game. But man, for me, guys, I got to say this. To have had an opportunity to watch Chandler Morris for these last couple of years, last year and this year, so impressed with that kid wrapping up his senior citizen, wrapping up his senior year. This kid is, at least I believe that he's going to go on to do great things in college, maybe even further, because he's a tremendous talent.
I'm really concerned about the trend that we're seeing with the turnovers. Three games, Timberview, Lone Star, Lancaster, 11 turnovers in those 3 games.
The best 3 teams they've played, right? And they've given opportunities to those teams.
Throw Rockwall in there as a pretty good team they played, but still, you're seeing that kind of consistency that they are turning the ball over, and that ain't going to fly in the playoffs.
No, if you're going to have to go through the gauntlet of a schedule of first meeting Denton or Lone Star, then meeting Denton Ryan, then meeting maybe an Alvin Shadow Creek or whoever comes out on the other side of the bracket, trying to go for your 4th straight state title. You can't turn the football over 4 times.
They had 2 turnovers against Rockwall, too. So, again,
this is 13 in 4 games.
Right.
Against the best 4 teams they've played. Jinx. Wow, that was weird. Still, at the same time, I mean, like you said, Randy Allen's going to get on top of that. You would think, but at the same time, I guess they haven't necessarily fixed that problem as we speak.
Things play out in the course of a football game. It's when you look at Highland, when you look at who they have to play first, Wakeland, this is definitely going to be that game that they get some of those mistakes corrected. Highland Park, even when they make mistakes, it seems like to me they have this governor within them that just kind of calms them down and allows them to go back to doing what they do. They don't get rattled. I don't think even in some of the loss that I saw to Lone Star, they didn't get rattled, where they looked at any point like they were, things were coming up, busting out the seams. Everything was going out of control. That's not who they are. And so they're a well enough coached team to where they can settle down for any situation, even if you get an early score on them, even if you get a turnover. They are still a veteran squad. They've been there. They've done that. And that's that championship pedigree that starts to take over at this time of the year. And the guys that have been there since their freshman year, they know how to get it done.
But everybody who plays Highland Park, it's their Super Bowl. It's your chance to make a statement, and you're going to get everybody's best game. You put the ball on the ground 3 or 4 times against somebody who's playing like that, you could be having
I think that's an
early Thanksgiving.
I think that's to say that's everybody's Super Bowl. I think that's a little bit it's a little arrogant to say, because I think teams feel good about themselves as well. I think teams come into it saying, we put our pants on just like them. This is a Super Bowl for them.
You would like to think
they got the ring.
You would like to think that, but at the same time, it's the winningest Texas high school football program in history.
I got you.
And they're in the middle of a 3 straight championship dynasty.
Okay.
The target's on the back still.
Okay.
Even with
what
other
would Ric
teams,
Flair say about this?
Woo!
Even with other teams like Alvin Shadow
In order to beat the best, you gotta beat the best.
Denton,
I got you.
Or Denton Ryan. I mean, all of those teams. It's still Highland Park where everybody's like, don't sleep on the Scotties. It's kind of where it's been throughout the year, and it will be until they get beat.
Well, I'll tell you what, it's one of those things where you got to dethrone them, and there are some dogs in that hunt that want to dethrone.
Waiting for the chance. Now, one final game before we start building our brackets, and Haltom and the Buffaloes need an 11-point win or more to find their way into the playoffs. Well, they entered the fourth quarter up by 11. It was 31-20, but San Angelo Central puts up 14 unanswered in the fourth quarter, and the Haltom Buffaloes season comes to a close.
They beat Trinity.
And they did beat Trinity, like you said. But San Angelo Central squeaks in there and puts up 14 points in the fourth quarter. This was a really good football game from the standpoint of both quarterbacks having big-time games. Each of them had over 315 total yards. Each of them had at least 3 touchdowns through the air. And then I want to give a shout-out to one of San Angelo Central's incredible wide receivers. I'm looking for the name here. Don't have a name. The last name was
Tanner Dabbert.
Is it Tanner Dabbert? Okay, I didn't have a first name. 7 receptions, 210 yards, and 4 touchdowns.
Haltom is sending people to D1 too.
What was that?
Haltom is sending people to Division One also.
You're exactly right. Wow. Everybody's getting some D1 letters this week.
7 catches,
210. 210. 4 TDs.
Whoa.
I'm not very good at math, but that's a lot per catch.
It's 30, by the way.
Is it 30
Yeah.
exactly? Okay, well, there you go. I see I'm just not very good at math. Oh, yeah, I guess it is just 7 times 3. Anyways, 34-31, 543 yards. You see the offense overall. Let's go ahead and go to that interview with Mr. Tanner Dabbert as Lincoln Reveille got a chance to catch up with him after the game.
All right, guys, Lincoln Reveille, Friday Night Stars here. I have Tanner Dabbert with the go-ahead touchdown where San Angelo Central defeats Haltom 34-31. So, Tanner, just how does it feel to get this big win tonight going into playoffs?
Feels great. Going into the week, we knew it was at stake tonight. And for our team to come together, especially in a fourth quarter, and make a comeback and secure ourselves a spot in the playoffs, everyone here is excited, and I'm excited for our team.
Do you think the cold happened to impact how you played tonight?
No, we've been practicing in the cold in San Angelo lately, and I think our team's pretty adapted to it, and I think we reacted well out here tonight.
And I'm sorry. Do you think that you'll need to improve on anything going into next week?
Yeah, of course, we're going to go up tomorrow, watch our film. We're really good at being critical on ourselves and knowing that we did some good stuff, but we always have stuff we can improve on. And offensively, we're always going to work towards being more efficient on all of our plays and score more points.
All right, thank you, Tanner. Congrats on the win.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Lincoln. And he just had an incredible game overall.
Well, you 7 catches, 210.
210.
So yeah, incredible. I didn't think we were gonna have enough. When you talk about those numbers, I didn't think we were gonna have enough lens to get Tanner in the shot. And then we go to the shot. It's like, Hey, Tanner.
Yeah.
I expected Randy Moss.
He's listed at 6'1", 170. You know,
he had a
senior just making plays.
Man, he had a ball game today. He'll remember that for the rest of his life.
Yeah, it is going to be a career day, no doubt about it, for Tanner Dabbert. Now, it's come to the part of the show, boys.
It's bracketology time?
It's bracketology time.
I love it.
On Whataburger Friday Night Stars, we've got Chris Beam in the back building these brackets as they kind of start to emerge a little bit.
How you doing, Chris?
And I'm going to ask Chris. We're going to get I don't know if the Beam cam is ready and popping or not, but he's kind of he's the Joe Lenardi in the back, kind of orchestrating the whole thing, and he's keeping up with all these standings and these lists. And of course, these are all subject to change now that we're building these brackets, with games still kind of becoming final scores and things kind of still shaking out. These are subject to change, and we don't necessarily have like game times or stadiums or anything just yet. However, we're going to try our best to build these playoff brackets and put together our Friday Night Stars bracketology. I like that. I like that a lot. We might have to coin that term next year. I don't know if that's trademark already or not.
Probably not.
It might be, though.
We'll trademark it.
That's right.
Mm-hmm. That would be interesting.
So you're 6'8". So do we have any darlings? Is there anyone that we're just going to jump out the cake to say that this is our favorite team that we're going with? Anybody feel jumpy? Anybody feeling froggy?
Maybe
anybody want to do it?
Blue and Red Panthers?
Ooh.
Are you going to pick against them?
The Midway Panthers? Is that the Blue and Red Panthers you're talking about?
I think that's who he's talking about.
I hope that's who you're talking
Go
about.
Midway.
Go Midway. Yeah,
nah,
I like it.
That's not
Panther
who I'm
Pride,
talking
baby.
about.
You talking about the Duffel Bag Boys?
All day long. All day
2.0?
long. And so I want to get down to it. I want to hear what Professor Diggs has to say. I'm sure he has some South Lake Carroll teams that he want to throw out there, because he just kind of has that feel about him. He just kind of has that feel that that's where he's going.
Okay, let's start in 6A. Let's start 6A Division 1 up in Region 1 is where I think we're going to start things off, and we'll take a look at this bracket overall. And, of course, up at the top of the Division 1 bracket, you've got the Trinity and Arlington Lamar matchup. South Lake Carroll taking on a Louisville squad that's still right now in overtime with Flower Mound Marcus. And so out of this bracket and looking at the Division 1 or District 1 standings at the same time, out of El Paso, I believe, is where they would play those two teams up at the top in District 1 and then District 2. Who out of this do you take as the favorite? And I know we talked about a little bit of that South Lake Carroll and Duncanville matchup that we could see in the second round. I see South Lake Carroll here as the by far favorite.
I can't disagree with you. I think on this half of the bracket, you're already giving me that look. I'm taking Duncanville to win the whole thing.
No. I just want to know where you're going with this.
The top half of this bracket, I think South Lake Carroll is your favorite. I think they beat DeSoto in the second round. I think they beat Trinity in the third round.
Yeah, I would have been a lot more confident in DeSoto had it not been for the loss against Summit and this final loss against Cedar Hill. I think that from a coaching standpoint, you got to have all your ducks in a row. You can't be a prisoner of the moment versus South Lake Carroll, because there are going to be so many moments in that game. Are all the athletes on the side of DeSoto? Yes. But schematically, I think that Quinn Ewers, quarterback-wise, what they bring from a defensive standpoint, just who they are as a team. And also, like you said, Professor Diggs, I believe this year, South Lake Carroll in the trenches has been one of the nastiest teams that I've seen. These guys block whistle to whistle, and that's not something that that you got to demand. That's just a part of that nasty that they have. And so South Lake Carroll, to me, is definitely going to emerge from this district. Now, again, all of that is going to be, obviously, getting against a DeSoto team that's willing, and ready. That's going to be a great game. I just don't see how, from a coaching standpoint, that they beat South Lake Carroll.
I think the game of the week next week in this half of the bracket will be Trinity against Arlington Lamar. I think Trinity made a good statement, but Arlington Lamar was a gritty game. They've got some athletes. It'll be a styles clash. I think Trinity will win it, but that would not be a surprise at all if I saw Lamar on top.
And I think that's a great point. You're talking about styles clashing a little bit there. Those are two teams that completely different directions, but Man,
I like
the running game is going to be interesting.
I like Jack Dawson. I like Jack Dawson. I like a lot of the weapons that he has. The kid that Mallory got an opportunity to interview that had the walk-off touchdown for them. I think they have all the speed, but the problem is that Euless Trinity on defense, they are going to crowd you at the line of scrimmage, and you know what they want to do on offense. They want to milk that clock, and they're also very rough and tough in the trenches. And so this is a game that I think is going to be very tough for Arlington Lamar.
It will be tough. And then that second round matchup is going to be pretty tough as well. You see the update that we just had. So Odessa Permian and Midland Lee played today for what would be the top seed in that Division I district. So Midland Lee will be that second team, we believe. And because of that, El Paso Montwood will be the number 1 team taking on Midland Lee. Midland Lee is a solid number 2 squad there.
Midland Lee is a solid squad. I want to double check the score because Midland Lee is about a 3-touchdown favorite over Permian, so Permian won that game.
Permian won that football game, and it is a final score.
Final.
How about that for Odessa Permian, though?
Boy, that
Mojo showing it out there.
Mojo.
42-39 was that final score. That was a wild one.
I was about to warn us all against Midland Lee, and apparently Permian decided to
do it anyways.
Take care of business.
Well, and that's another one of those games and those rivalries that you throw out the records, you throw out the predictions.
It's Friday Night
Lights. Yeah, exactly. It's the movie. Legitimately Friday Night Lights because of Mojo and what they've been able to do against Midland Lee. And we were just talking about Trinity a little bit. I'm going to go to the tag board. Joshua Price over at Trinity as they celebrate their 3-6A district championship, and of course taking down the Richland Not So Running Rebels tonight, and they do it in Haka style as well over at Trinity. And one of the favorite football traditions, and it's led by the coach at the same time as they lift the trophy to the skies out in Euless at Pennington Field, and they turn around, they'll be back at Pennington Field next week.
They'll be back there. One thing to note about Richland, just as kind of an aside, all indications are they're going to drop to 5A next year. So
really?
Richland has a chance to be good for a little bit extended period of time. I know Coach Gates is very happy about that.
Are they thanking God?
Yes. They're excited about that.
Get us out of here.
Yes.
That's what they're saying.
Get us out of here. Yeah, that might be exactly what they're saying, but definitely fun to look at the Haka and everything involved with that over the course of the celebrations there. Now let's go down to our next bracket that we've got to build here on Whataburger Friday Night Stars, sticking with the 6A level, and we were able to really kind of fill out that entire first region throughout the 6A Division I. Let's go to Region 1 down at the bottom. There's that Odessa Permian squad, El Paso Franklin right there, and then that's where it gets fun. Martin versus Central. We saw that San Angelo Central team tonight taking on a Haltom squad and taking down Haltom. Then Flower Mound and Keller. That's going to be a football game. And then there they are.
There they are.
Perched down at the bottom, ready to pounce. The Panthers of Duncanville.
And nothing scary there for Duncanville. I don't even think they're going to have a very competitive game, at least till the third round.
Yeah, South Grand Prairie. Drake Logan at quarterback. There's a ton of athletes for SGP as well. Great defense. Also, those guys are ball hawks. They get plenty of turnovers. It's just not your year, SGP. You got the wrong guys in front of you.
Yeah, I don't see any way you can't pick Duncanville when you look at this bracket. I mean, of course, a lot of people are going to pick them to go straight to the state title, and for very good reason. But especially when you look at this part of the bracket.
Let's just say this, and I think we've missed a lot of this this year for Duncanville because of the loss last year. We just expect for them to they're just going to miraculously show back up in state. It's a long road. They got a bunch of teams that they're going to play on the way that is going to be formidable as well. I just believe in Jaquindon Jackson. I believe in Jaquindon Jackson. I think this kid is probably one of the most talented guys in the state of Texas, not just North Texas, but also the fact that they have found some other ways to win ball games. Tristan Smith at running back. This kid, again, year of the running back. Tristan Smith is another kid that has shown what he can do. And again, Duncanville is just like Denton Ryan when I say that they are a well-rested team. games against WT White, games against, some of these other, in their division, they're beating guys by 45-0 at halftime. So they're taking their starters out.
Running clock.
There it is. Got to, because with Duncanville, they can run it up.
Team you got to look at in this top of the half of the district is Odessa Permian. I think they have a best chance to beat a Metroplex team. I think you might see Odessa Permian against Duncanville in round 3. Arlington Martin, to me, they've been doing a little bit with smoke and mirrors. I don't think you can rely on your special teams to get you 14 to 17 points a game in the playoffs. So I think when Permian come, that game will probably be at Shotwell and Abilene. I think we could see Permian.
We got an opportunity to see Permian against DeSoto. DeSoto drug them through the mud, and we start comparing teams, and that was at the beginning. That was an earlier game. I know teams get better; they have injuries. They they live through these things. But I just for me, Duncanville, Odessa, they're gonna. Look, we got a better chance of Arlington Martin getting
December match.
Okay, good deal. Let's see. I mean, because I think that for me, Arlington Martin gets through that bracket, that part of their bracket easily, and
that's
I think
kind of where I'm thinking.
They're the team that may end up seeing Duncanville, and I think that Arlington Martin just is that team that can win. Like I said earlier, any way you want to, and you bring up the fact, and this is something very important when you start talking about playoff football. Special teams can be a good night Irene section of because you score a touchdown, you kick it off, and the guy takes it to the house. Arlington Martin is the team that can do that.
Absolutely. But again, every year there's one team out of West Texas, and you're talking about this earlier, who will get on a bit of a roll. Permian travels well. They will have that mojo. I would love, personally, I want to see Martin Duncanville in the third round. That'd be a fun DFW game. Yeah. But just don't be surprised if Permian has put it together.
Marked. Noted.
West Texas. Here they come. Permian. Momentum. How many more exclamations do you want to make?
Just throw it. Just do it.
Keep doing
this
it.
Is what you do.
Let's go down one more time. I believe, Chris, you got to keep up here or keep me up to date here in terms of where we are in terms of this 6A bracket. Are we down to another region? Or are we moving on to 5A here?
Let's move on to 5A because I'm working on the bottom half of the Region 2 for 6A right now.
Okay, so
let's talk some 5A.
The voice of God telling us 5A on the way. Let's take a look at that 5A Division 1 ranking or bracket rather, as we take a look deeper into our Friday Night Stars bracketology. And with about 25 minutes left in the show, of course, we talked about Highland Park earlier. That has now gone final. They do take down Mansfield Timberview, talking about 5A Division 1. Let's take a look at that bracket, though, overall, and what has been kind of a fun region to look at. I mean, overall, you look at Highland Park, Denton Ryan, all the way up in the top of all of this, but this is the bracket where they are not in. You've got Lubbock Monterey up at the top. We talked about Birdville earlier. Of course, they fell this week, or not this week, but
yesterday.
They did fall yesterday to Denton Ryan. And then you've got Abilene Cooper, a team that a lot of people think could make a run, but they're going to have to get past Colleyville Heritage to do so.
I don't think they're going to get past Colleyville Heritage.
You don't think they're that good?
And again, this all breaks down to who's going to be fed to Denton Ryan. I mean, this is all fun and games, but Denton Ryan is, again, 4 to 5 touchdowns better than every team we see up here on this list.
Wow. And they're
just shut it down.
At the bottom of that.
Where do we go from here? Also Birdville. Birdville is a team that, we move brackets, so we'll go with the bracket that we have.
There's Denton Ryan right there, sitting at that winner of the 4th district in 5A Division 1. Grapevine up at the top.
Granbury doesn't have, this team doesn't have a shot. We're not going to go with them. They're not going to do it.
I'm going to go on a solid no.
Okay, cool.
Sorry, Granbury.
And that's not Granbury. That's I don't know what that is.
It's a little typo, but that's okay.
Oh, yeah. That's okay.
The Pirates got...
Denton Ryan's doing Chris Beam is doing what he can back there, and Denton Ryan's going to do what they can against Granbury. But What were you saying there, Professor Dave?
I was just going to say Granbury got spanked tonight against Saginaw. So, again, that kind of tells me a little bit about what you're going to expect out of that game. If there's a team here that can do something, it's Azle. Azle is probably the second best team in the region. So they would play in the third round of the playoffs if everything comes into fruition. But, again, all Denton Ryan all
Let's
day.
talk about this then. What is it going to take to actually beat a Denton Ryan?
To be a Highland Park, Lancaster, or Frisco Lone Star. I mean, nobody in this. It would take ridiculous amount of turnovers. I mean, we're talking about one of these 5 turnover games like Richland put up there. And even that, I think we would see Denton Ryan still eke out a 1-2 score game.
Yeah, I see a team just matching them as far as athleticism is concerned, but also a team that is fast-paced, get their stud guys tired out. Like you said, you see these guys at the end of the season, the conditioning comes down to it. They're cramping, things like, because they're going on both sides of the ball. If they have to get a play, the Seth Hennigan, they may sub him out and put Drew Sanders in at quarterback. They may put Drew Sanders in at wide receiver, but he's a full-time defensive guy as well.
But you've already seen what's going to happen in this by their district. I mean, I would say your third best team in this region is Birdville. Your fourth best team is Colleyville Heritage. And you've seen how Denton Ryan's dismantled those teams already.
Right. So, I mean, we're jumping right to Azle, but then just trying to add that element of mystery to it. Is there anything potentially that you could see one of these teams doing to actually knock Denton Ryan off?
West Texas weather, I mean, that kind of a thing could get it. If you have a very strong running game and a stiff north wind on a Saturday afternoon where things just kind of go crazy.
So are you just saying
that kind of
an act of God, basically?
An act of God.
Thank you. Okay, we'll go with that.
So Chris Beam in the other room is what it will take. Is there really a chance that we would see the Denton Ryan? I mean, I know we just kind of went through this, but a lot of people kind of write them off, no matter what kind of route they're going to have to go through, even though it's easy all the way up until that semifinal, and then you go to the championship if you get there. I mean, that's a big if. Can Denton Ryan get it done? Give me a percentage here.
Well, I've already given you my thoughts on Coach Hennigan and kind of my
can't coach in a big game is what you said in the pregame show.
Can he win the big game? And to me, I haven't seen it. I've seen the Highland Park coach win big games.
Randy Allen.
We've seen the Frisco Lone Star coach win big games. I think Chris Gilbert has the pedigree to win big games with Lancaster. I haven't seen it with Denton Ryan. Denton Ryan beats teams they're supposed to beat handily. The first time they play somebody, it's a pick'em game, they lose. Got to win one of those games you're not supposed to win. And in Division II 5A, Aleda's kind of got the same boat. They're just expected to go through the first 4 or 5 rounds, 42-point favorites all the way through.
You know what? I think that Coach Hennigan has to have heard all of this. And
I'm sure he's listening right now.
And he's
heard me say this.
He's got to be ticked off a little bit. He's got to be ticked off about it because, like you said earlier, football is a tough sport.
It is.
And, these guys play for pride. You don't want to keep getting back to this part and losing at the same part. You don't want to be known as the Buffalo Bills of high school football, right?
You don't want to be known, but if you look at if you built a little Madden game, nobody in this region would have a better Madden team than Denton Ryan.
True.
So if Denton Ryan is going to have
That's a good point.
if they're going to have that best team, it's kind of the onus to say, okay, who's going to be better than them? And right now, obviously, nobody is better than them, but when they play teams that are very similarly built, they lose.
Well, the first challenge for me starts with the likes of, like we said, the Frisco Lone Stars and the Highland Parks.
And that's going to be a semifinal matchup, should that be the case. And we'll take a look at those brackets here in just a moment. Do want to give you an update on one of the games that we did not give a final score for because it has now gone final. Flower Mound Marcus, as we go to the tag board in overtime against Louisville, Marcus with the win as Mallory Hartley gives us the final looks here of the game-winning score in OT. Able to just take it all the way to the end zone. The defense got a stop early in overtime, and then Marcus comes out and gets the win on the road. You see the insanity that ensues. Flower Mound Marcus takes the win.
That's just fun to watch right there.
Battle of the Axe
is back in Marcus.
Great job, Mallory, getting that game-winning footage for us.
All over the game winner, and she's given great footage all night. She'll probably get some interviews that'll be available on the social media side. I don't know if we'll be able to get in.
Marcus is a team that's going to be dangerous as well.
Yeah.
A lot of people need to start paying attention to what Nussmeier is doing. This guy's putting up a bunch of yards. I believe they should have had like 650, 670 tonight or more, I'm sure. And that's just insane, the type of numbers.
629 yards total for Flower Mound Marcus, and 457 of those came from Nussmeier, 5 touchdowns.
That's just dumb.
That's a college blowout stat line in a 6-point win.
That is like so. Then that puts him at about 3,100 yards for the year.
I believe so. It's
in the
right
regular,
there.
I mean that man.
Oh no, he's actually just under 3,000 yards by 23. He missed it by 23 yards.
That's crazy. Still, kid has had a phenomenal junior year, and last year he had his struggles, but this year, man, he is. Elite arm. He showed that he could do it all. And, I think for them next year, or going through this season, since we're talking about this season, it's the running game that's made the difference for him. You've seen him become more comfortable because he can rely on his running game. And it's not that Marcel Brooks last year, the kid that's at LSU, and Marcel Brooks for Marcus played offense only last year. And the guy goes to LSU and he plays defense. It's the weirdest thing to see. But, Marcel Brooks on offense, he was the big play guy for them, pretty much all they had. But now they have a bunch of big playability over there, and Nussmeier is making sure that he's getting everybody a share.
If you want to play a little point counterpoint, they do look good. Division II is obviously the weaker of the two divisions. They're not going to see a Duncanville. They could see a Cedar Hill or a DeSoto. Okay. But when I go back to their non-district, they lost to Bowie. They barely beat McKinney Boyd. Shout out to you.
We almost got him.
Almost got him. And in district, they're playing a lot of rivalry games. We see the Fire with Flower Mound. We see the Fire with Louisville. How good is Marcus? Can they win these rivalry games? Or the other counterpoint could maybe they're peaking. Maybe they have found something. Maybe Nussmeier has found that rhythm, and they are a team that has gotten significantly better. Kind of maybe remind me of McKinney last year, a team that was absolutely horrific in non-district and then made it to the playoffs.
Yeah, Bowie is that team. It doesn't surprise me. Anyone that loses to Bowie, I don't take a Bowie loss and say, your team's no good, because Bowie's defense is like that. Now, the McKinney Boyd close scare, it's an off night. It didn't happen on the Thursday, that the cow jumped over the moon. It was a black cat on the field. Okay.
We might have Fox if you want to go to
whatever it is. We got to find out what's going on with that. But, I just feel as though at this point, especially with Kevin Atkinson at the coach, you look at some of these later games in district play, he has not left any play on that playbook sheet. Okay. He is putting it all out there, and whether it be a trick play, onside kick, going for 2, all of those things. I believe that he has a team that is confident. I think he has a team that is definitely primed and ready to go. They've proven to themselves that they're nowhere near the team that they were last year, and pulling out a victory like this versus a good Louisville team with a solid defense where they had all of that adversity. And you talk about this game, it was very back and forth. You had safeties, you had a lot of things that's happening. So this is a quality win. Now, does this propel them to a state title? No. but it could put them in some very competitive games, and they could make things very interesting for some of your juggernaut teams, not expecting for a Flower Mound Marcus to make a lot of noise.
What would you think about a hypothetical Marcus versus Cedar Hill game, a couple of rounds down?
Wow. Well, and then the thing that I would have to go to in a game like that is the fact that Cedar Hill at quarterback and receiver, their receiver, the kid that's going to Texas Tech, is fast. He's probably one of the elite talents. It's going to come down to a lot of tough, but that's the thing, though. Marcus has all of the tools to beat anybody, and you put it on Nussmeier's arm. That may make the difference. Now, Cedar Hill hadn't seen a quarterback like him. They hadn't come against the offense as prolific as the one that they would see. So it would be a problem for Cedar Hill as well. So that's a two-sided question, because Cedar Hill hadn't seen an offense like Marcus.
You said it all.
Thank you.
I'm just kind of letting you guys go at it back and forth because, I mean, all those hypotheticals are something that we'll have to look for come that playoff time. I mean, there's so many different scenarios that can kind of play out even just within the brackets that we're building at the moment. We talked about Highland Park a little bit earlier, and they do end up getting the win over Mansfield Timberview. Let's take a look at what Highland Park is going to have to go through here in terms of Region 2 of that 5A Division 1 level. And Highland Park coming out of District 6 with that championship, another district championship for Highland Park. And this is where things get juicy.
I love it.
Lone Star at the top. Mansfield Legacy sneaks in after starting 0 on the season.
My.
College Station, who was in a state championship game a couple years ago.
Oh, that looked good. I like that bracket.
Sherman, who's tough. Highland Park, who is, of course, Highland Park.
I like that.
Wakeland, who we saw tonight lose to a Liberty squad that hadn't won since 2017. And then Mesquite Poteet with no Seth Hennigan, I believe, correct? For Mesquite Poteet?
Seth McGowan,
excuse me.
No Hennigan. I think he's back.
You think he's back? Okay, because we haven't seen him over the last couple of weeks. But regardless, Highland Park, Lone Star, definitely highlights of that group.
I have to say, I think we have an error. So
okay.
I'm even looking at it on the Twitter right now. Sherman did beat John Tyler, but they needed to win by 11 or more, and they did not win. They only won 32-27.
So it goes down to points at that point?
Got down to points. We're going to see Texas High and John Tyler. So we're going to be looking at John Tyler as T7.
In place of Sherman there.
In place of Sherman.
Kind of like what we talked about earlier with some of these point spreads and stuff. That's why these are subject to change. These are not set in stone. So it'll be John Tyler, you said?
John Tyler.
In that spot. Okay, so another tough team. That's a John Tyler squad that took Highland Park to the woodshed last year in the first 3 quarters here at the Star in Frisco, and then turning around, Highland Park found a rhythm, and now we've got it updated. So it'll be John Tyler, who's had kind of a down year after losing a lot from that
they lost
state
everything.
Quarterfinal team last year. But they've got another shot to potentially at least win a game against College Station, but then you go up against Lone Star.
Yeah, that's going to be the problem, and it's not a secret. Everybody knows that I'm rolling with Lone Star. I don't see anybody that can beat them. I just don't.
Even Highland Park?
No, I think if they see Highland Park again, they beat them down. I mean, it's not at the Hollander, the neutral site. Yeah, it's going to be one of those games where they unleash on them. A lot of those things that were called back, I think that game was out of control. A lot of the penalties,
especially early on.
Yeah, and a lot of the penalties that Lone Star had. I mean, there was an interception that Pittman had. He ran back for a touchdown that was called back on some fluke holding call. Well, all I'm saying is that neutral site for both of these teams. Lone Star is athlete for athlete. I don't see Highland Park beating.
You got to think about it. A neutral site for those teams, most likely in round, what would it be, 3?
I'm thinking it'll be right here.
No, that would be round 4.
Well, that bracket said it would be the 3rd round if that bracket was accurate.
Oh, I think you're right. I think you're exactly. Yeah, you're right. It would be the 3rd round. I don't think it would be here. I think it'd be in Arlington.
I don't think AT&T is going to be available from what I'm hearing. So I think it's
Highland
here.
Park.
I know. Jerry might open it up.
There is a guy named Paxton Anderson that plays for Highland Park, and grandson of one Jerry Jones. They might open up the big place for that one.
And then for that reason alone, Lone Star is coming into that game all about it. And so you can put all the names out there if you want to. It's 11 on 11, and I'm telling you, Lone Star has the team that can beat anybody. Anybody.
They can.
Yeah, they can.
Defense travels anywhere.
And a running game. And a passing game. Yeah. I mean, so let's just put it out there. And let's say, they play outdoors. We talk about weather. We talk about all of those things.
They could play at Ford Stadium at SMU. That might be another place that they would play.
Yeah, they can't play at Ford Stadium. If they play at Ford Stadium, that's a home game, right?
It would be for Highland Park, technically.
Come on, now.
They could flip Apogee for
I was thinking maybe Apogee Stadium.
Now you're talking.
Maybe TCU. I don't know if TCU is going to host any playoff games. That would be interesting.
Yeah. The difference
they
is
play outdoors.
The difference is Rangel, Marvin Mims. It's the defense of Frisco Lone Star.
Who's the better quarterback in those two? out of Rangel and Chandler Morris.
I mean, that's not even the question. Come on, next
Chandler
question.
Morris.
Yeah, come on.
Who's the better coach out of Jeff Rayburn and Randy Allen?
Randy Allen.
I think if Highland Park plays Lone Star again, I think Highland Park wins by at least 2 touchdowns.
But if you put the 44 players who are starting and you draft them, who at the first 15 of the first 22 are going to be Lone Star players?
You're saying that you're saying right now
15 of the first 22?
Would you not say that?
Highland Park beats Lone Star by 2 touchdowns?
I would put it down right now. 2 scores. Highland Park over Lone Star.
Man. Mark that.
Stop. Well, let's mark it. That's
We
fine.
just did.
10:53:45 on Friday, November 8th,
don't do
2019.
that. Don't do that. Don't do that. Because
you keep saying I'm lucky. I'm saying I'm calculated.
Man, look,
Sir, he just
stop
called
it.
you out.
No, he didn't. Because the thing about it is he knows how good Frisco Lone Star
They're incredible. They really are.
And you absolutely
But
know
they're not Highland Park.
I mean, they're not. They don't have to. They don't have to.
They're not Randy Allen.
They don't have to be. They don't have to be. All they have to do is be the best Frisco Lone Star they have all of the weapons to take care of that in the running game. Both of their running backs. Yeah. All of their. I mean, come on now. Do not forget. What is the matter with you?
They've got
What did you do? Did you drink something when you walked out of here?
No,
What's going on? Did you just say 2 touchdowns? What did you just say?
I said it. Mark it down.
I can't believe you just
mark it down.
That's crazy.
Heckler's got a point.
Regardless, I want this to happen because I think it's going to be incredible.
But you heard him say 2.
I heard him.
Okay, cool.
So
it's Thanksgiving weekend right there.
At least that's a Thanksgiving weekend game. That's even more juicy. So with that being said, now it would be Highland Park, Lone Star in that final matchup in the top half of Region 2. Let's go to the bottom half of Region 2 and see exactly where they would kind of shake things out in terms of who they would play I guess we could say if, but most likely when one of those teams emerges out of the top half. And this one's not nearly as scary, but that Lancaster team down at the bottom, and then Frisco Independence and Timberview as a first-round matchup is pretty impressive. Now, once again, these are all subject to change based on point differentials and things like that, but I like that bottom matchup between Independence and Timberview. That is going to be impressive.
That'll be fun football, and Lufkin, it will be a good football game.
And that's a Lufkin team, like you said, we haven't necessarily talked about, but we need to talk about.
We do need to talk about them. They are in the same kind of commentary as Longview. They're a good football team. McKinney North is going to be the scary team. I think if Lancaster and McKinney North play in the second round, which I would say favorited to do that, watch out for McKinney North.
Really? Yep. You think the firepower there from McKinney North could do something?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, Markowitz is a stud. They have a running game. Defense is, but they made some changes on the defensive side of the ball. They brought some offensive side and put some of the offensive firepower on the defensive side of the ball. I think McKinney North, Lancaster, that's a scary game for Lancaster.
I think the offensive firepower of McKinney North is unquestioned. And then obviously, as the professor just mentioned, moving some of that offensive talent to help out on the defensive side has shored up a defense that was just hemorrhaging points.
Now, I went against the Colony last week versus Frisco Independence. Now, I will say this, in that game versus Lancaster, you got athletes galore across the board right there. This is going to be a track meet. We know that the Colony has a pretty suspect defense, but as far as what their speed on the outside, they match up really, really well with Lancaster. So, look, I know we're trying to jump and say, hey, this is who we're going to, but we have to put some respect on the Colony's name right here, guys.
One of these teams is going to emerge and play Highland Park or Lone Star, most likely, in the state quarterfinals, in a championship game or the regional final in Region 2. Which one, if you had to put it in writing right now, which one comes out of these 8 teams?
Lancaster.
Wow.
Okay.
Man, you know what? I haven't seen Lufkin, and I know they're a really good team.
They're very good.
But just based off of the eye test from what I see, Braylon Braxton is amazing.
Really?
And I think Frisco Independence has a great opportunity. Now, Mansfield Timberview is also really good. So that's going to be a tough matchup, but I really believe that Frisco Independence, that's who I would go with.
You just lost all your credibility.
Maybe I did. But maybe that's called being calculated.
I like it.
I'm going to go way out of the box.
Did you like that?
A Lufkin team that no one's really talking about. Why not?
See, and I'm actually going to agree with you here. And the reason why is I think that slugfest of a game at the bottom of that bracket in Independence and Timberview is going to take a toll. I think it takes a toll between either one of them.
Yeah.
And I think that's going to be tough to go back to back. You would have to, defeat either one of Independence or Timberview and then turn around and play Lufkin.
Yeah.
And I think Lufkin's going to take advantage of that. And then they're going to, I really don't think Lancaster is the other team that I was kind of leaning toward. I think Lufkin and Lancaster would most likely be the regional or the regional semifinal here. I would still kind of lean Lufkin in that one, though.
And the thing that frustrates me is we're talking about all these great games, and Denton Ryan will not have one game within 5 touchdowns on that same pathway.
Well, you think about it in terms of let's say Lufkin. You play. Well, actually, let's go with Independence. If they somehow were to make a run, crazy run to the state title game, Independence would have to beat Timberview, Lufkin, Lancaster. Let's just say that Highland Park and/or Lone Star. And then Denton Ryan. And then Alvin Shadow Creek. Name a tougher road in the state. That's the 6 games they would have to play in order to win a state title.
That would be tough. That's a tough.
You can say that for Independence or Timberview.
Yeah, either team. I mean, just Lufkin alone. That's you get past that. Yeah, you're doing pretty good. Get past Lancaster, you're doing awesome. Get past Frisco Lone Star. My God, who are you? So I mean, this is an Independence team that did not even come close.
Nothing
to beating Lone Star. And I just base everything off of Braylon Braxton. I know that he is an athlete. Kevon Wafer is his target, but Independence has a defense. So guys, there's one thing about it is in the winner take all kind of deal, you just can't say, oh, these guys for sure are going to take it. Just can't do that because anyone can win.
Anyone can win, and we're running short on time here. We're already at 11 o'clock. However, I do want to go to some of these 5A Division II brackets at the same time, just because I feel like
quick hitters.
We've got to go through some of these. Chris Beam working very hard.
Overtime is going to overtime?
Actually, no. We're actually gonna quit overtime. We don't have those brackets. Excuse me. I made a mistake on that one. I got a little ahead of myself, thinking that was the case. However,
how great are the playoffs going to be?
Oh my gosh, it's going to be incredible, man. Yeah. It is going to be incredible, and we're going to continue to bring you coverage for Whataburger Friday Night Stars. But as the night comes to a close, I would like to mention who has come out on top in our predictions throughout the regular season.
Who did it?
2019 with a perfect 5-0 record here in Week 11. Yours truly, Kyle Yeomans, has now won the prediction contest.
Lucky.
How's that, Heckma, for lucky?
Or calculated.
There's no skill involved in what you do, so it doesn't. There's an asterisk next to it.
How is there an asterisk?
It is. Did you win last year?
No.
Who won last year?
You did.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Pouring the salt.
Ooh, love it. Hey, before we go, I gotta say this.
Do it.
Duncanville, it's your year. It's your year. Don't let nothing come in between destiny. My man Reginald Samples deserves a state title, and this year's Duncanville team is the team to do it. Chris Thompson Jr., boy, you're a stud. You do everything. A lot of these guys, man, Chris Thompson Jr., you could catch a BB in the dark, son. You could do it all. I'm telling you, look, Jaquindon Jackson, Mr. Jackson, if you're nasty, do what you do. Do what you do, son. And get your kids out the street.
Get your kids out of the street.
Everybody needs to get
everybody, because Duncanville coming.
Because they come.
Because Duncanville coming.
They on their way.
Duncanville
coming quickly.
Yes, sir. I believe that.
Before we leave, Whataburger Friday Night Star of the Night. Who you got as your Friday Night Star? It's tough.
Oh, it's really tough.
There's a lot of them around the area.
I think I'm going Nussmeier, though. Able to lead Flower Mound Marcus past a fantastic Louisville team. I don't see how you go with anybody. I do see how you go with anybody else, but at the end of the night.
There you go. William Broderick's first for Whataburger Friday Night Star.
You can't go wrong with Professor Diggs, coming in. I mean, we had Mallory Hartley here last week. Now we got this guy. It's got a lot of filling in for Zach Walchuk, man. It's a lot that we got to do.
We're missing a lot of the show, but we've got a lot of talent.
But, man, my guy, Will.i.am, he made up for the looks. I mean, Eric Chief, I'm used to seeing a much prettier face over here on the other side, but you made up for it, dog. I'm telling you, you did your thing. So you came in here with the red hair and everything. You rocked out, bro. I love you.
Will.i.am.
Grayson Thompson, Denton Braswell. 327 yards, 3 touchdowns.
How about that? My Whataburger Friday Night Star of the Night is everyone throughout the regular season that has helped Whataburger Friday Night Stars be as successful as it has been. Playoffs are right around the corner. Next week, we start deciding who is going to be at AT&T Stadium come late December. It's going
Freudian
to be
slip
a
right
ton
there.
of fun over the course of the playoffs. For everybody involved, Professor Diggs, Heckma Harrison, and we've got William Broderick, Matt Kent in the other room, Chris Beam, for Chance Williams, for Jeremy, for Tyler, for Zach, for Eric, for Fred, for everyone that has been a part of Whataburger Friday Night Stars in the regular season. So long from the Star in Frisco. We'll be back for playoffs coming up right around the corner. God bless.